Mr. Clerk, we have a quorum and call this meeting to order at 8:09 PM. Can you please call the roll?
Councilman Schwartz, Councilman Belcher,
Here.
Councilman Goldberg,
Here.
Councilman Organ,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Katz, Deputy Mayor G,
Here.
Mayor Begon.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by resolution number 299-2023, sending a copy to the newspapers officially designated for 2024 by way of resolution number 2-2024, filing a copy in the Township Clerk's office and posting on the municipal building bulletin board, and the mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good evening and welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. Township Administration Present at tonight's meeting are Dean Kaczynski, Township Manager, Doug Roussillon, Township Clerk, Kristen DeNorcia, Deputy Township Clerk, Thomas Rowe, Deputy Township Manager, Scott Salmon, Township Attorney, and Rod Goodman, Volunteer Cablecaster. For the public's information, we are currently holding a hybrid format meeting. We have people in person and on Zoom. If our Wi-Fi at the municipal building has an issue where the Zoom meeting drops, we will aim to retrieve the connection and restart the meeting. The next televised regular council meeting will take place on Thursday, March 7th and 14th at 7 PM, and they are both budget meetings. Our next regular council meeting will take place on March 19th. Council met in closed session earlier this evening to discuss the following items: DPW update, tax revaluation update, FDU empathy training, military banners, a most referendum, assault dome, legal issues and opinions regarding items on the open session agenda, litigation updates, and Oprah. Our next order of business is presentations, and first up is a revaluation update. Mr. Manager, can you lead us in this, sir?
Yep, sure. Doug, is Rob Russia connected on Zoom?
Sorry, 1 second. I just
Sure.
got booted out of the Zoom.
All right. So just quickly, Mayor, I was asked to have a representative from Appraisal Systems who's been doing our reval, as well as our tax assessor who's in the audience tonight, James Ty, to speak a little bit about the revaluation process, how it all came about, the reason for it, why we had to do it, the court order to do it, where we're at today. I think, as everyone knows, basically the reval is complete. 100% of the exteriors are done. 99% of the interiors are done. Letters went out to the residents, and Appraisal Systems and our tax assessor will be meeting with residents from all of this week and all of next week at the Rhoda Center. It can be done in person. It can be done through the phone. Again, that's from the 26th of February through the 1st of March, and then again on the 4th of March through the 8th of March. And that's all that information is contained in the letter. But I wanted to have Appraisal Systems here, as well as our tax assessor, to explain to council again in about 10 minutes how we got to this, how it started and how we got to this point, and the ending point for the reval. So Doug, I'm not sure if you, okay, Rob, welcome. And James, you want to come up to the podium as well? And Rob, you'll be addressing council, and James as well.
Just give us a check 1, 2 real quick, Rob. I want to make sure we can hear you okay.
Sure, absolutely. How's it going, everyone? Can you hear me okay?
No. That's on our end, though. Give us 1 second.
All right.
I'm happy I asked. Count to 10 for me, Rob.
1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now?
Mr. Ty?
Yeah, Rob, hang on a second. We're going to let James Ty start.
I'm not sure if James is the most loved or hated employee. I'm not sure.
I'm neutral. I'm Switzerland.
Can you hear me now?
No, please feel free, Mr. Ty.
Okay. What Rob is probably going to just present is a general overview. Basically, the tax assessor's office under the jurisdiction of Bergen County Board of Taxation and overseen further by Division of Taxation. The Bergen County Board of Taxation basically tracks our assessment to market value ratios, number of other statistical measures that they look at every year. And when it reaches a certain threshold, they would start thinking about ordering a revaluation. When it passes that threshold and we get the order, which we did, I believe, in 2020 or 21. So the Bergen County Board of Taxation would issue an order for revaluation for Teaneck and all the other communities that statistical profile had deteriorated to the point where they felt that an update was needed. That gets okayed by the Director of Division of Taxation, and we receive a formal order. We put it out to bid. Appraisal Systems was the responsive bidder that met all our criteria, and they started basically laying the groundwork earlier this year. Now, we had map updates that we had to do. The Division of Taxation oversees our tax maps as well. There's certain formatting issues that they like to see on the maps. They've also had some changes because we just did a revaluation in 2014 for 2015. I say just did that. It's almost 10 years ago now, but seems quick. Seems not that long ago. But anyway, our map was fairly up to date. However, it still took 3 tries with our engineer making some changes to have the map acceptable and be ready for us to do the revaluation. That added some delay to the project. We were ready to start doing inspections in May as soon as the weather broke. But the division, in the past, they typically allowed you to start inspecting earlier while you were simultaneously revising the map. They've drawn a hard line against that in the last few years. They will not let you start any phase of the inspections until the map is fully approved. So that happened around July. The inspectors have been out there since July. They are, as Dean indicated, they have 100% completed the exterior inspections. They're about 99% with the interiors. They still have some appointments with people. And they will still do inspections up to May 1st, which is the appeal deadline. And typically in past years, if people have filed appeals and did not have their property inspected and brought that fact out at the hearing, Appraisal Systems was willing to go out and inspect the interior to verify the conditions there and see if that would result in a change in the assessment. So they'll be doing inspection from now up until May 1st by appointment, or if someone needs or calls them and has a dispute. They will also do them after the appeals process is underway. As some of you may remember from the original presentations, it was a multi-step process. The first and the largest step was the inspections of the property, and then issuing the assessment notices with the new assessments. Now we're doing the review. As Dean said, we have 2 weeks reserved at the Rhoda Center. People are meeting. I understand they have about 180 people scheduled over the next 2 weeks for appointments. They're also doing phone appointments, so you could discuss online as well, or on the phone. People want a copy of their property record card. You send an email to them, they'll send one right back to you. That'd be the new property record card with your new physical description of your building, which everyone should do just to check it over and make sure that, or verify that what's on there is actually what they have. That's all outlined on the letters that were sent. Right now, we're in the phase where Appraisal Systems is handling any discrepancies because they will send their personnel out to look at it again if there is a discrepancy or if it was not inspected. And after that process is over, for our appeal deadline is May 1st. We have to have the new assessment certified 45 days before May 1st. So whatever date that is, and I don't know it in my head right now, that's when the process will stop. It may stop before then. If no more people are looking for meetings, we may be able to certify them earlier, but we'll put the certified list in. We'll get a net valuation taxable that we can then use to start with the budgeting process. We have an approximation of what it is. It went up from about $5.5 billion rateable base to about $8.4 billion. It's approximately a 60% increase in the rateable base, which means there is also, with zero change in the budget to collect the same amount of money as we did in 2023 using that new higher denominator. Our tax rate is projected to be $2.04 rather than $3.30. That doesn't include whatever's going to go on with the budget this year. You know, appraisal system's not in a position to project that. They have no input into that. So on that letter, what people were finding is a projection of what their taxes would have been had the 2023 budgets been in place. Of course, our typical increases over the past few years have been about 1.5% to 2.5%. So somewhere around there on top of 2.04 is probably where it'll end up, I would imagine. But once again, that letter, the best they can do is tell you what it would have been had the budget been unchanged. Because people always have that question, okay, I see my new number. What does this mean? Everyone's assessment went up, but that doesn't necessarily mean your taxes are going to go up. With the new, you're going to have a higher tax assessment with a lower tax rate. In many cases, you'll just end up where you were last year with the same 1%, 2%, 3% increase. There are properties where their taxes are actually going to decrease as a result of this. And there are properties, of course, that are going to be increased. But the budget doesn't increase as a result of this. The budget process is completely separated from this. This is just at the final, when the budgets are finalized, it's divided by the new net valuation taxable, and then we get a new tax rate. So that's pretty much the process in a nutshell.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ty, Ms. Goldberg?
I have two questions. One, do we know from the assessment company how many residents let the assessor in versus didn't?
I don't have that number right now.
Okay, and then just for residents' knowledge, what the process would be if they did want to appeal and they can't make the meeting for any reason?
Well, the appeals process is outlined. The contact information is always on the Chapter 75 notice, which is the postcard that we mail out every year. And that's another thing I just want to know. People are calling and looking for their postcards. Many people are, the point of the Chapter 75 notice postcard is to advise or property owners what their assessment is for the current tax year. Additional information that's contained on that card is the taxes that they paid in the prior year. But the point of that card is to tell you what your assessment is in time for you to challenge it via tax appeal. On the back of that card is information, how to contact the Bergen County Board of Taxation. On their website, they have petitions of appeal. They have about 14 sheets of instructions written in plain language on how to go about this, what's expected of you at a hearing. So if they look for that on the back of their Chapter 75 notices, after the proposed assessments are certified, they'll find the contact information. In a revaluation year, the appeal deadline, which is typically April 1st, is extended to May 1st.
Ms. Organ?
I didn't have anything, but just so we can let people know the dates and the times that they can go to the Rhoda Center to meet with somebody the next 2
I
weeks.
believe they're there from 10 to 8. If they call appraisal systems, they can make a,
It has to be by appointment?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they want to know how many, they don't want people waiting in the halls. Basically, they're going to put them in time slots when they can be there. But a lot of people are, especially since COVID, appraisal systems, a lot of the other assessors that I've been talking to, in years past, we had hundreds of people attending the in-person meetings. A lot of people are now doing it on the phone or availing themselves of the online information they put up there and getting most of their questions answered that way. But either way is fine. They can.
Rob,
Stelter?
Rob,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, sir. Thank
Oh,
you.
perfect.
That was our fault, Rob.
Wait, actually,
No worries. Yeah, just to add on, what Mr. Ty was saying, our website is updated with a lot of useful information now that a lot of the property owners could use. So up on our website is we show you how the predicted tax rate came about, the calculation. Mr. Ty explained to you how since the net taxable value went up about 60%, the tax rate would expect to drop about 60%. The other thing we posted on our website is the neighborhood map. So you can see how we carved up the town into different neighborhoods. We also put up a list of all the assessments, the residential assessments, so you could go on there and compare your assessment to your neighbor's properties. And then also we put all the usable sales that took place within the last 2 years. So the website's very useful, and that kind of limits the number of meetings that we have with property owners, because a lot of times the property owners now like to do the research themselves. So, for example, if you got a letter that says, your property is assessed at $500,000, you could go on our website and look at the sales that occurred in your neighborhood of similar homes. And if they're selling between 475 and 525, that will give you the confidence that we placed the accurate assessment on your property. And then also you could compare your assessment with the other assessments on your street. So I definitely recommend utilizing our website to get some good information. And if you have trouble with any of that information, like Mr. Tai said, you could always schedule an appointment with us, either in person or over the phone.
Ms. Belcher, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I like the fact that you explain the fact that assessed values can go up. It doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes will go up, but when will the actual rate be established? So we'll know what the actual tax rate is for our town.
Well, I would imagine it would be when it normally is. It's been late July lately, I believe. Typically you're done with your end of it sooner. Then you have the school board, you have the county, and then the state aid disbursement. So that's been pushing it to July, August usually. So that's not going to change.
Thank you.
I also want to let council know, public know, in our agenda under this presentation item, we did put links to where you can find updated information on our website, tnecnj.gov/revaluation. But I also put I put a link to Appraisal Systems and their portal site for TNEC that has all the updated information. So you can go around the agenda and see that too.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Does anyone else on council have any questions for Mr. Tai or Rob? Dean, do you have any questions? No?
Properties, when will they be done?
They're done. Rob, you can confirm this. The letters were sent, I think, Friday last week for the commercial properties.
Yes, 99% of the property values have been out. We did hold back some letters where the property owners had a scheduled appointment with us. So those will be going out this week. But yeah, 99% of the letters have gone out. So if you haven't received your letter yet, you can go on our website to see your assessment, or call our company and we could send a new one out for you.
Ms. Goldberg, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure for veterans, do their everything stays the same for them, or do they have to do any further applications or anything?
No, veterans application. Qualified veterans don't have to renew every year. Senior disabled deductions, they send a renewal in every year to the tax collector. But veterans, as long as they own the property, there's no deed transfer, then it stays with them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else on council? Questions? No? Mr. Tai, thank you. Rob, thank you so very much for your presentation. Very helpful.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for your patience.
Next order of business, certificates of recognition for TVAC, meritorious unit citations. Deputy Mayor Katz, can you lead us?
Thank you very much, Mayor, and I certainly like to recognize Life Member, Councilmember Organ, and Life Member who's not here, Councilmember Schwartz. All right. And my buddy, how we doing? Oh, you got them also? So should we move them together? So let's call them up and we'll have them all. Okay. Sounds good. I'll give the certificate after you say the name. You start. Mr. President. You owe me a date.
Yeah.
Not you and I.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay. You and I also.
Long as we're
Yeah, first of all, Mayor and Council, thank you for having us. More importantly, to our residents and to Mayor and Council and the manager, thank you for entrusting the EMS responsibilities for this town to our organization. Teaneck Volunteer Ambulance Corps, as its name indicates, is 100% volunteer. We staff our building 24/7, and it is our honor to serve the community providing EMS services. Tonight, we have the honor of recognizing a crew with a meritorious unit citation. Every one of our members certainly deserve an award. This award is specifically for a crew showing exemplary performance of their duties. Specifically, on November 15th at 1:05 p.m., TVAC was dispatched to a patient having an allergic reaction. Sometimes allergic reactions can be very minor, but at other times they could be absolutely life-threatening. Our crew responded immediately from the building, arrived on scene to find a patient in severe anaphylactic distress. Anaphylaxis is when the whole body overreacts to an allergic reaction, and your systems can go to the point where they actually shut down. The patient is very often patients who know that they have an allergy, a severe allergy, will carry a life-saving device called an EpiPen. In this case, the patient had already administered one, but the symptoms continued. We arrived on scene. Our crew immediately recognized the severity of the situation. We also carry an EpiPen, epinephrine. We administered a second dose. And although our hope was that she would improve, the patient actually got more serious. Most serious concern is a loss of the ability to breathe, which would obviously ultimately result in death. That began happening. Generally, TVAC is accompanied by what's called ALS, Advanced Life Services. ALS in this case was unavailable. We don't have unique to TNEC advanced life support. That life support was busy somewhere else and not available, and our crew was forced to render care totally themselves. They began rescue breathing. The patient became unresponsive. Due to their quick action in getting that patient quickly to the hospital, emergency services at Holy Name were able to revive the patient, and we are fortunate that she's actually here with us today to celebrate this wonderful, wonderful job that this crew has done on their behalf. I'd ask if Mina Schwab could join us for the presentation. Want me to call the names? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You want to say something?
Just want to say thank you so much for everything. Obviously made a big difference. Every second matters here, and so I'll appreciate it. Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce the crew if they can join us up front. Crew Chief Ezra Finkelstein. Bob Crane.
Thank you. Thank you.
James Nang. Carolina Elliott. And Lamar Dickey.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Mr. President. Thank you. Listen, to the people at home that are watching that might have just moved in, Teaneck has the absolute best all-volunteer ambulance corps in the country, all right? And that's the reality. When many of our neighboring towns are moving away from volunteer or going to paid, Teaneck has not only gotten stronger with more ambulances and more people, not one of our members get paid. So when you think about writing a donation, whatever your charity of choice is, just know that every single dollar goes to literally saving lives and not administrative fees or fluff or whatever these organizations use the money for. It literally goes to save lives. So thank you very much, TVAC, for everything you do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have a good night.
So I just want to say thank you so much you are a treasure in our town. When my son was 2 years old, he had a febrile seizure. He turned blue. He lost consciousness. I've never been more scared in my life. We called 911. TVAC was there in less than 2 minutes. Amazing. And we got to the hospital so quickly, he's fine. But, I had a personal experience with TVAC and they are truly amazing. And the fact that you do this as volunteers is just unbelievable and incredible. And so I just want to say thank you for your services to this town. We are so grateful for all of you. Like Deputy Mayor Katz said, you are a treasure and the best out there. So thank you.
Ms. Belcher.
And what makes Teaneck such a great town is our volunteers. And I just want to echo the fact that, thank you for your service and what you do to ensure that our residents are safe and well cared for. So this recognition is definitely well warranted. Thank you.
Ms. Organ.
So, Ms. Schwab, it's really nice to see you here and doing so well. I wasn't going to say anything because we've had so many of these, and after a while, it starts to sound a little bit like we're repeating the same thing. I joined TVAC, I think, around 1990, became a life member, became president, met my husband there, and my daughter just joined a few years ago. And I was talking to Joe Harris before we started here, and I was admiring historic pins. And I know that you each got the citation pins tonight, and I was never had the opportunity to deliver a baby in all my years there. But my daughter Jamie did, and she delivered a baby a few days after she had a terrible, terrible call during COVID that kept her out of school and really had her spiraling. But a few days later, she delivered a baby on Christmas Day with my husband, and it elevated her. And so to everybody who's here and who was on that call, I'm so glad that we get to celebrate this win with you and with Ms. Schwab, because these are the things that let you bounce back when things are not so great. To everybody out there, TVAC is indeed a jewel of Teaneck. It is a way for yourself or your children to make friends in the community, lifelong friendships, work with people. Please, if you have the ability to join. It's a wonderful place. If you don't, like Deputy Mayor Katz said, write a check. Thank you.
Ms. Goldberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also just want to echo and say thank you to all the members of TVAC. I personally had a experience with TVAC where you guys saved my life from a head injury, so I really appreciate that. And my stepdaughter just joined and is starting her EMT class, I think tomorrow actually. So that's exciting. So I just want to say thank you. And if anyone ever wants to join, it is truly a microcosm of Teaneck, and it's such a wonderful organization, and everyone should support TVAC, joining with your checks, food, whatever it is. You guys are amazing, and thank you.
On behalf of the 42,000 residents who call Teaneck home, thank you so, so very much for everything that you do. You've been saving lives for years, and you save lives every single day to this very day. And this most recent example is a testament to who you are and what you bring to the township. So thank you so very much. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys have to go, it's okay. And thank you for joining us tonight so very much. Our next order of business is Community Begins at Home, an age-friendly Teaneck. Mr. Manager, can you introduce who will be addressing us?
Sure. Colleen, are you going to be presenting or is that EJ? Okay, we have EJ busy on Zoom, just a great bunch of people I've been working with, Colleen, Jackie Cates, Janice Dorman, Elizabeth Davis, EJ busy, and this is a new initiative that really targets Teaneck residents with disabilities, and it's a project that they're doing now to survey the community about challenges some of the residents may be experiencing. So I wanted to give EJ busy a couple minutes to explain the program. We support it, and I think everyone will love what she's about to say. All right, Doug?
Where'd Doug go? Oh, there he is. Hi, EJ. Welcome. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Wonderful. All right. Well, hi again, everyone, and good evening. Thank you, Township Mayor and Council, Township Manager, our amazing TVAC crew, and all of you tonight for your time. I'm here to talk about our project, like Township Manager Dean Kaczynski just said, Community Begins at Home. But first, I'll introduce myself. My name is EJ Vizzi, and I'm the Director of Senior Programs with the Brightside Family, a nonprofit with more than 30 years of experience serving Teaneck. We provide affordable housing, affordable assisted living, and support services that respond to the changing needs and preferences of low and moderate income older adults. And everything that we do is guided by our belief that having a safe and comfortable home environment is a fundamental right, that income should not dictate access to supportive care, healthcare, or social services, and that community is created by honoring one another's individuality, dignity, privacy, and autonomy. And that definitely includes those who are aging with disabilities. Through Age Friendly Teaneck, our primary initiative for community action for the past 8 years, the township has shown support to us by participating in studies for age-friendly land use and walkability, using township funds to install flashing lights at highly traveled intersections, hiring a full-time social worker to better serve vulnerable populations, and offering support to build 40 new units of affordable senior housing on municipal land that includes a community center at 1425 Teaneck Road, which is actually taking applications right now through April 2nd. We're hosting weekly in-person meetings around town for people to receive help with that application if needed. And this week's is Thursday, February 29th at the Rhoda Center in multipurpose room 2A and B from 12 to 3. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you again today about our new initiative that we just launched, Community Begins at Home. It's an outgrowth of our age-friendly community project here in Teaneck. And through this new undertaking, we hope to help Teaneck develop a coordinated community strategy to ensure that people who have mobility or other challenges can safely live within their homes and remain active participants in our community. Teaneck is a community that prides itself on inclusivity, but when it comes to understanding the needs and desires of people with disabilities, we all need some consciousness raising. We're not always aware of the factors that can lead to some members of the community being excluded from everyday life. According to the U.S. Census, roughly 3,800 Teaneck residents report living with one or more disabilities, and about 1,700 of them are over the age of 65. And while many older and disabled adults express a preference for aging in place in their longtime homes, 72% of Teaneck's housing stock is detached single-family homes, and most were built before universal design standards were ever created. For many, the barriers begin in the home. A 2021 report from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development estimates that 4 in 10 U.S. households include a person with accessibility needs that lack accessibility features such as ramps, lifts, wide enough hallways, or entry-level bedrooms or bathrooms. A key component of our project will be training volunteers to conduct home safety assessments and also help residents navigate the various programs in Bergen County that offer financial support and other help to residents who need those ramps, bathroom remodels, or other home modifications and adaptations. We're thrilled to have Teaneck Township government as an active partner in Community Begins at Home. In the past few months, we've met with Township administration and staff from Teaneck Social Services, Fire, Police, and Health departments, and those officials have collaborated with us on the design of our home safety assessment tools that we'll be using. This collaboration will, of course, be ongoing and include linking Teaneck residents to services offered by the township, such as programs about free smoke detectors and morning check-in phone calls from the fire department for those who are living alone. Our other project partner is Heightened Independence and Progress, a nonprofit that offers home modifications and other supportive services to Bergen County individuals with disabilities and their families. This initiative is being funded by an Inclusive Healthy Communities grant from the New Jersey Division of Disability Services of the Department of Human Services. And we're receiving a lot of support and guidance from the leaders of this statewide program. Our goal, and in fact, a requirement of the grant, is to ensure that this project is shaped by input from individuals with lived experiences of having a disability. We held focus groups in the fall and will continue to do so, and with the eventual goal of establishing a project advisory board consisting of people with disabilities, family caregivers, and disability justice advocates. One motto of the disability justice movement is nothing about us without us. And so we are endeavoring to get widespread input and empower those living in Teaneck with a disability to shape and lead this effort. As part of that goal, like Township Manager Dean Kaczynski mentioned, we're in the midst of conducting a community-wide survey in Teaneck, and we'd appreciate if you could help us circulate that survey around town, or by taking it yourself if you're disabled with vision, hearing, mobility, or memory challenges, or if you have a chronic condition that create difficulties within living in your own home. The website to take that survey is agefriendlyteaneck.org/CBAH survey. Again, quickly, that was agefriendlyteaneck, one word, .org/CBAH survey. If you didn't get that, don't worry. My colleague, Colleen Diskin, is in the council chambers with a QR code to the survey and copies of the aforementioned 1425 Teaneck Road housing application if you'd like. The survey, the link to the survey is also in the agenda packet. So our survey asks about barriers, not just in the home, but also in our community. We're attempting to understand how difficult it might be for some residents to participate in community meetings and events such as this one, or to get to the houses of worship or other places in town. We hope this survey will help us get a picture of social isolation in Teaneck, something that we know older and disabled adults are at greater risk of. The New Jersey Social Isolation Study, released last year in 2023 by the Department of Human Services, reports that up to 45% of individuals with a serious disability or chronic illness are socially isolated. And I garner that number is higher since not everyone would report feeling as such. The data we gather in our survey will be widely shared with township leadership as part of a goal of educating all of us about the challenges of residents who may be feeling invisible or excluded in their own community. And as we build this program out, we also hope to develop a social work-led and volunteer-supported program of home safety assessments. If this program speaks out to you and you might be interested in volunteering, please seek Colleen out afterward and she can share more information about that. What's different about this program is that we're not only seeking to provide direct services and social work intervention for people who may be struggling, but we're also seeking to increase community awareness of the prevalence and nature of health inequities and inclusion barriers in the township. Eventually, we hope Teaneck will establish an autonomous advisory board of disability justice advocates to help steer the policy and systems changes we need here in town. This will truly be a community shape and community-led project that we believe we can lead to a sustainable progress and make Teaneck more welcoming and an inclusive community for people of all ages and abilities. Please feel free to reach out to us to volunteer, for copies of the survey or housing application, or even just to say hello. The number for age-friendly Teaneck is 201-530-6756. Again, 201-530-6756. And our email is info@agefriendlyteaneck.org. You can always go to our website or Facebook page as well. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ms. Vizzi. Does anyone on the council have any questions for Ms. Vizzi? Ms. Goldberg?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to comment that I think this is really incredible. And I'm really excited about it. As someone with an invisible disability myself, I really love this idea. And I think it's really important that, people are aware of what's going on. So thank you.
Anyone else on council? Ms. Belcher?
I just want to commend the organization for what you're doing in terms of housing and the intersection between housing and disabilities. I mean, there's so much that needs to be done in the arena of housing, and it's really good to see that we have such a great local organizations that's really making some tremendous strides in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Anyone else on council? No? EJ, Colleen, thank you so very much for everything that you and your organization do to help our older adults and just our community as a whole. And if there's ever anything we can do, please don't hesitate to always reach out to us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and
All right, thank you
Council.
both. Our next order of business is a certificate of recognition for Sebastian Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, many of you may already know, is Dominican Republic Independence Day. And yes, we actually, a group of local residents saw Mr. Sebastian Rodriguez as he retired from his service as president of the Board of Ed. And many of his colleagues wanted to recognize that. So what better day to do that than today? So at the tonight at the high school, he's being recognized for 15 years of service. And the council just put forth a certificate of recognition to Sebastian Rodriguez on this Dominican Republic Independence Day for his dedication and service to Teaneck, the Teaneck community, and the school system for more than 15 years of service. So I just wanted to read that so the residents can understand that he's being recognized. He's done some tremendous things. One thing I know about him that is having a daughter that left the high school during the pandemic. She was 16 years old in the 11th grade and never went back. Actually graduated because of the fact that she was one of those classes that just was able to graduate but wasn't during the pandemic able to take classes only on Zoom. So I appreciate Mr. Rodriguez for navigating through that difficult time. He did an extraordinary job. And tonight, from what I understand, there is lots of fun that's happening over there. Dr. Spencer is there. Former President Artie Walzer is there recognizing him. There is a lot of cultural expression. They have drummers there and food and festivities. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Sebastian Rodriguez for the service that he has given to the Board of Ed and to our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher.
So I had the pleasure of serving on the school board with Sebastian Rodriguez, and I could not affirm Councilwoman Belcher's words anymore. He was so dedicated to all of our Teaneck students. He served for so many years, I think 4 or 5 terms, if that's right, and never faltered. He always was cool and collected, no matter how intense some of our meetings might get. So I just want to say congratulations to Sebastian for his many years of service. And obviously we couldn't be there to celebrate him today because we're here, but we are celebrating from afar.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I want to echo that as well. Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Belcher. And thank you to Sebastian for everything that he's done over the years for our kids and our schools and our community. And he's still a very young man, so he's not going anywhere. He's going to stay very involved. Let's see. Next order of business is work session items. And first up is miscellaneous. Does anyone have anything under miscellaneous? Oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to bring up the topic of good and welfare. I know our ordinance right now is currently written that it's not to ever be more than 1 hour, but we haven't consistently enforced that for the last few years that I've been on council at least. And so I'd like to consider or have a discussion in public about whether or not we consider changing that ordinance. I asked Scott Salmon to look at the ordinance and the history of the ordinance, and honestly, there's been so many versions of how of good and welfare and how it's been run. There was one iteration where the council would agree at 9 o'clock to stop whatever they were doing and have good and welfare so they could hear from the public. And then after all the members of the public spoke, they would close off good and welfare and then go back to business as usual. And so I think it would be worthy for us to have a discussion about how we want good and welfare to look going forward. I think folks were very disappointed at the last meeting when we cut it off at an hour. And there were 18 people still left wanting to speak. And so I thought it would be worth a discussion.
Anyone else on council? Ms. Belcher?
I would agree with Deputy Mayor G that it is vitally important that we hear from our residents, Mr. Mayor. I think on previous councils, they have many times expressed or made a motion to extend good and welfare. I feel as if that's one of the very reasons why we're sitting here as representatives of our community is to hear our community. So I think giving 3 minutes to each resident that wants to speak, be it by Zoom or be it in person, is reasonable. I believe that it's important also, I think, which was kind of difficult at the last meeting, is that the weather was very bad. And I know that a lot of residents don't like to drive when we have inclement weather. So I feel as if, extending good and welfare is a reasonable thing to do.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Anyone else? Ms. Morgan?
Yep, I have a few problems. First, I don't like when we do the business of the town after 11 o'clock at night. I feel like we're limiting ourselves to what we can discuss, and that's when we pay the bills, and that's when we introduce the ordinances. And so the meetings that we had that were going on and on and on, where after midnight we were finally getting to the work of the town, would not work for me at all. I think there would need to be some, I don't even know that I'm okay with actually putting something into practice. I feel like it would depend on, for me, the tone of the evening, how the evening's going, and a lot of the meetings lately have been incredibly aggressive, and I don't think that prolonging good and welfare at those meetings is beneficial to anybody in the town. I think it doesn't allow cooler heads to prevail, and allows a lot of anger to come forward. So I like that we have the hour, that's the rule, and we have the ability to extend it. But I'm not in favor of, at this point, with the way things are, just voting to extend it indefinitely until everybody who's ready to speak speaks.
Anyone else on council? I'm glad you guys brought this up. Sometimes good and welfare is an hour, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. But I'm open to looking into other ways to address good and welfare. Go ahead.
I think there's a problem when we inconsistently enforce the 1 hour rule. It begs the question why on some days we enforce it, some days we don't, especially the last council meeting when it wasn't an issue of a time constraint. It was fairly early in the meeting where we decided to cut it to an hour. So I think that's one problem. I think the other issue, I just want to be clear, if we cut it to an hour and everyone takes their maximum of 3 minutes, that means only 20 people get to speak. And if we split that virtual and in person, that means only 10 of you sitting in the room would be allowed to speak. And so I think that's problematic. I think people come out here, they leave their homes, they want to talk to us. This is their only opportunity to be heard. We should let them be heard. I hear you, Karen. It's been extremely rough these past couple of weeks, and some of the things that I've heard, I wish we could mute. And I understand that some of it is very triggering and hurtful, but we wear these hats for a reason. We were elected into these seats for a reason, and we have to listen. If there's any hate speech or anything disrespectful, we cut it off. And I think we address it at the time, but I think we have to listen to our residents. And so I just want to say to the public, I anticipate that we may not extend good and welfare past an hour tonight. And so I actually beg you not to take the full 3 minutes so we can hear from as many people as possible. So if you can keep your points quick and sweet tonight, it'll get a lot more people to speak tonight.
Anyone else?
I just want to comment on the 3 minutes. I've stood up on that podium many times. 3 minutes is tough, and people prepared their speeches, and I don't think it's fair to ask someone on the spot. I know the Board of Ed did it, to cut their time when they might have prepared something. I've been there myself right there, and you time it to make sure that you're getting everything in. So I don't think that's fair.
Thank you for that, Councilwoman Goldberg. Would you be willing to extend the meeting past an hour tonight so that people can have their full 3 minutes and everyone can speak?
I'm not answering that right this second.
We can address that when we get to the moment. Ms. Belcher, I think I saw you pulling the microphone toward yourself.
I think that here again, some residents like to send emails, okay? But some residents like to be heard verbally. And I think there's something to be said about, being here and hearing from our residents. People want to come, they want to look at you in the eyes, and they want to tell you what's on their mind. And I anticipate, I have no problem sitting here. Most of the time since I've been here, meetings to midnight hasn't been problematic for me. I feel as if that's what it takes to hear from every resident that wants to speak, then I'm willing to do it.
I think that
Anyone else? Wait, just 1 second, please, just 1 second.
I think that we
Goldberg?
can hear from more residents if we have workshop sessions also.
Anybody else have any more comments? No? Moving on to the next order of business. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, I had a second miscellaneous item. Or maybe this is old business. So leadership TNEC, I know we spoke about it, I want to say about right before the end of 2023. We are in the middle of firming up the dates and the speakers for leadership TNEC. It will be a 10-session program kicking off on April 1st. It'll be Monday nights. So I just wanted to flag that to you all. Their 10 session, I think we're skipping April 23rd. I think it's a holiday, and then also Memorial Day. So more to come on that, but I just want you all who may be interested in participating in Leadership TNEC, and actually I should say what it is for those of you who have not heard about it. Leadership TNEC is a civic, it's almost like a civics course about government and the local government process here in TNEC. And so you hear from a lot of local speakers about different topics such as the history of TNEC, the different advisory boards, land use boards, the planning board, et cetera. And so it's a really great opportunity for folks who have never been involved civically to learn about how government runs and maybe learn about how to get more involved. So we're really excited to relaunch that program this April 1st. And so if you might be interested, look out for the flyers coming out soon, and it will start on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Ms. Belcher.
I just want to add to that. What's notable about that is Leadership TNEC is that many of you may already know our township is in the middle of a master plan. So we're casting a new master plan for our township. So now is a great time to get involved civically because master plans are typically only done like once every 10 years. So it's definitely a great time to really explore once we do publish the flyer and have the list of speakers. It's an excellent time to get involved in the township because the master plan is huge for our township. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Anyone else? Seeing no hands, the next order of business is old business. Does anyone have anything under old business? No, moving along, the next order of business is new business. Anyone have anything under new business? No, next on the agenda is communications. Any communications? No, moving right along. Committee reports by council liaisons. Deputy Mayor?
So the Senior Citizens Advisory Board met earlier this month. They were very grateful, Dean, for the bus that will be provided for them to visit the Botanical Gardens. So they send their thanks and appreciation. We also had a really lengthy discussion about the monuments on the municipal green, and I thought it was interesting hearing from a different perspective. There were definitely some feelings that maybe the monuments don't belong in the municipal agreement. Maybe there's a better place for them elsewhere where we could honor many different marginalized groups, not just two. And so I just wanted to share that feedback. I know we got a lot of feedback here in Good and Welfare, but I just thought it'd be helpful to share that feedback from the Senior Citizens Advisory Board. Second, the Advisory Board on Community Relations met last night, and we had a wonderful discussion on so many intense topics going on in our community right now. And I just wanted to shout out Cheryl Hall. She did a really great job facilitating that discussion. It's a really great group. The group is fairly new, as most of them were new starting January of this year. But they do plan to, we discussed the good and welfare topic for a very long time. And they do plan to give some feedback to the council when they have some time. So I just wanted to share that and look out for that.
Thank you, Ms. G. Anyone else?
I just have something
Ms.
I
Belcher,
want to
yes.
add. Not so much a report, but I just want to commend Deputy Mayor Danielle G on her navigating of the Advisory Board on Community Relations. She has done a stellar job of really pulling that advisory board back, standing it back up. She really had to start at ground zero and bring in and interview quite a few people, and she's done an extraordinary job of making sure that we have a community relations advisory board. So thank you for that.
I have a question for the liaison.
Go ahead.
I know that we heard from Good and Welfare a few times about the empathy training. Did the Advisory Board of Community Relations vote about the empathy training?
Yes, they are all very much in support of the empathy training, and I've just talked to Dean about it, and we're working out the details of how that can be provided to them.
Great, thank you.
No problem. And then also, thank you so much, Councilwoman Belcher. Really, it was a group effort, and I think all of us really did a great job of making sure that all the advisory boards were stood up. So really, it's all of us, not just me, but thank you.
Anybody else? No, moving along. Council listed items, proposed resolution directing a review of the internal controls process. Councilwoman Goldberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've been speaking with our auditor and CFO to try to understand what our current financial processes are as a whole. So it's always considered best practice in accounting and finance to document your processes and review them to mitigate any risk to the township. And we are stewards of the township tax dollars. So I wanted to make a motion. The language of the resolution is in the agenda packet to move this to the consent agenda. And what we're asking is for the CFO to document the current processes and then work with the auditor to, review if there's any controls issues. I understand that we're in a really good place and we're continuing, a lot of our best practices now, but this is a good general practice, since we're stewards of taxpayer dollars. And then also I'm asking that the results and changes have a high level report that get posted on the website and have a public quick review so the public can understand that. So I would just make the motion to move that to the consent agenda.
Deputy Mayor G.
So thank you for the suggestion. I think it's a great idea. I think it doesn't change the fact, though, that last meeting we had asked for an audit of the organizations that are trying to build a monument on the municipal green.
Wait, Mr.
And
Mayor,
this
there's a
was-
motion on the table. Can we do that first?
Well, no, she's allowed to.
There wasn't a
There's no
second.
There's no second.
Just, all right, but please, continue. We have a first and second, but please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So like I was saying, love the idea, but it doesn't change the fact that last meeting we had, there was a motion on the table to audit the two organizations that were planning to build monuments on the municipal green. And this council majority, including yourself, Councilwoman Goldberg, voted that down no. And so I'm just curious why now we're now trying to support audits and you didn't support an audit of those organizations.
So this is not an audit. This is a review of our controls processes. And this was actually on the Rise for TNEC platform about, good governance of our fiscal responsibility. This is just something that we're
Ms. Belcher.
doing.
I feel as if, we have a really good CFO. He does an extraordinary job in terms of being able to really support the processes. I think the really that are needed financially or what are accepted best practices. I think I would agree with Deputy Mayor. We had a recommendation for a audit of a specific project. We are not talking about auditing a process. We're talking about auditing a project. So for us to take this detour, I think is problematic. And I think we should just address what we were talking about in the last meeting when we talked about auditing the two entities that are requesting to place a monument on public property.
So again, this isn't about an audit. This is about best controls practices. And as a finance professional, this is a best practice in both public sector and private sector. We do this every time.
Anybody else on council?
Oh, and no
Wanna
one's
say
saying anything that the CFO is doing is wrong. This is just a good practice to do. Document what we're doing and mitigate risks.
Anybody else on council want to say anything? Ms. Organ?
No, I just think we should vote on this motion, this resolution. I don't think it's a bad resolution. We can argue after about
During consent
the rest.
Right? The motion is about whether it goes on the consent agenda.
All right, Mr. Clerk, we have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Remind me the second. I apologize.
I think it was Mayor Katz.
First from Councilwoman Goldberg, this would be resolution this evening. This would be resolution on the consent agenda, resolution number 87-2024. That was a first from Councilwoman Goldberg, a second from Deputy Mayor Katz. Councilwoman Belcher.
No, I'd like to get just an audit of the monument as we discussed in the last meeting.
Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes.
Oregon. Councilwoman Oregon.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz. Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
Resolution, what did I say? 87-2024, add the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Township Managers Report, Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a very long report this council meeting, but a couple important announcements I want to bring up is the Senior Freeze Program. A lot of people are not familiar with that. And that's really a property tax reimbursement program that provides eligible seniors and especially disabled persons with reimbursements for property tax fee increases. I put some information online, some of the requirements. You must be 65 years of age. As of December 31st, 2022, or receiving federal Social Security disability benefits by that date. There's some other prerequisites with the requirement to own your home and having paid property taxes for 22 and 23, but it's a very good program, and I don't think enough people take advantage of it. So we do have information online, and he also sent that information on our website and through blast email. Another important announcement to make is we're seeking volunteers for our transitional shelter training. This is going to take place with the Red Cross and our OEM personnel on April 25th, and this will be at the Rota Center from 6 to 8:30 p.m. I put out some flyers on the front table if anyone is interested. And again, we're looking for volunteers that will help us set up a transitional shelter in a case of any emergencies. Could be storm related, could be floods, fires, power outages, things like that. One that recently came to mind was a recent power outage that required us to temporarily relocate some families in town to a warmer shelter. So we had this program in place some years back. We've lost some volunteers, so now we're trying to do a recruitment and to get some volunteers back. Again, this will all be done by the Red Cross and TNEC's OEM staff. You'll get a certificate at the end, and it's a very worthwhile program. So any further information that you may need is on the table there, and we'll be sending out some more information as we get closer to that date. Any questions, you can certainly call my office, and we also have an email set up at oem@tnj.gov. For those, the United States Postal Service reached out to me, and they're having a job fair on Teaneck on March 14th at their facility at 751 Palisade Avenue from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if anyone is interested in employment with the United States Postal Service, you can attend their job fair on March 14th. Today, I also attended the random selection for affordable housing units, and this is for Parkside Lane, and that was hosted by our Affordable Housing Administrator, Frank Piazza, and the developer, Paul Schneier. There were 5,000, little north of 5,000 initial applications. There are 78 units there. However, 16 are integrated affordable units. And occupancy will be between now and the end of the year. And those people that are involved and submitted applications through Social Security number, you can go to the Piazza website and find out if you were selected for affordable housing there. Some of the project updates, just one change to Herrick Park. There was some concern about where the basketball court was going to be located. We had planned to redo the basketball court with new lights, and that's very close to Parkside Lane where the new townhomes are. So we made a minor modification. The baseball field will now be the southern end of Herrick Park, and the basketball court will be further north. So the lights at night do not create a nuisance for the homeowners there. The Hawthorne Field update, the contractor completed the final grade and roll. This will allow the Teaneck High School baseball team to have two facilities to utilize this season, one being at Hawthorne Park and one being at Lancer Field, which we also completed earlier this year. Happy to finally report we did a nice groundbreaking ceremony yesterday at Teaneck Southern Little League. You know, unfortunately, the half hour we were there, it rained. They say, I guess rain on a wedding day is good luck. Hopefully it means the same thing for new baseball fields. So
Came out an hour later.
then the sun came out an hour later. So we have a picture of the groundbreaking ceremony that's actually on the Teaneck Southern Field. We have representatives from council, myself, someone from Austin Marini from Athletic Fields of America, and Mark Dennis from Teaneck Southern Little League. So again, this field is going to have a nice new synthetic turf, new fencing, backstop, a nice LED digital scoreboard with a playback feature, new dugouts, new seating areas. The outfield fence is actually going to be pushed back by 25 feet. So now instead of 200 feet, it'll be 225, and that will allow tournament play for the Teaneck Southern Little League and give them an opportunity to raise some money as well. We also submitted a draft narrative to the New Jersey DCA local recreation for an improvement grant. The goal for us is to get about 100,000 from them, and we're looking to purchase new exercise equipment at Bernard Brooks Park and also at Phelps Park. And met with Teaneck's own Howard Rose last week and at his bookstore on Cedar Lane, and he pointed out some areas of concern that he feels the DPW needs to address. So we had a good conversation, and I believe they stopped at your store, Howard, to review some of those items. As far as appointments, I'm going to be providing the oath of office to a fellow named Tyler Searless on Friday. He's an alternate route candidate and graduates from the Passaic County Police Academy very soon. So once he does graduate, we'll get him through field training and on the road very quickly. And we're looking to hire 2 additional police officers with Police Training Commission certification already, and they happen to be former Teaneck police officers that want to come back. So that will, in addition to hiring 2 to 3 additional officers in July, bring our authorized strength to 97, and that's a long time since we've been at that number. We also received a new firefighter list from Civil Service. The police department's going to conduct those background investigations over the next several months, and then we will fill any remaining opening firefighter positions for the academy class that takes place this summer. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Ms.
Mr.
Goldberg?
Manager, I just have one question. I know you didn't fully touch on this, but since you mentioned
Mm.
mentioned Office of Emergency Management,
Yes.
I know I had asked you this before and it was in a PowerPoint a few months ago, but just to reiterate for the public, the Ask Rail app from what is
Sure.
it, the Rail Association, can you just touch on like who has access to it? And so we know, so residents are aware regarding the CSX trains?
Sure. The Ask Rail application generally is accessible through a smartphone and it allows our emergency services to determine what is in a train car. So our fire department has access to it, our police dispatch has access to it, and the Teaneck Volunteer Ambulance Corps has access to it. So it's an excellent tool in the event it's needed for any sort of rail mishap.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Next order of business is Township Attorney's Report. Mr. Salmon?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just two things. I want to mention the ordinances that are going to be introduced tonight, or they're scheduled for introduction. The first one is an ordinance that more clearly defines our escrow policies for applicants before the planning and zoning boards, as well as for developers that are looking to work with the township. It is just mostly clarifying our procedures, adding more detail to it. Most importantly, it is making clarifying and ensuring that for any type of development that may be done in the future by the township, that the township's legal fees will be paid for by the developer. It's a standard provision that is in most municipalities. I'm not sure why Teaneck has not had this policy in the past, but it's going to save the township money by having developers pay for the work that we are doing really on their behalf, such as like looking over developers agreements or other documents like that. So it's things that we were doing really for their benefit, and therefore the developer should be paying for it. And so that's scheduled for introduction, and that will need to go before the planning board since it is a development regulation. The second ordinance is one that is required by the state. This is to authorize and encourage electric vehicle parking at developmental properties. Again, just in the future, if there is any development done within the township, their developers will be required to include a certain number of electric vehicle charging stations in their parking, just based on a percentage of the total number of parking spots. It's a state requirement that was actually put into effect about almost 2.5 years ago or so, I'd say. And so the township is just required by law to do this. And so just any future developer is just going to have to comply with that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Our next order of business is good and welfare, including input on a 2024 proposed municipal budget. And any member of the public wishing to be heard at this time can please come forward and state their names for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. And if you are on Zoom, we ask that you please list your first name and your last name and that you turn on your camera when speaking if possible. And please address the council as a whole and not individual council members if possible as well. Thank you. Mr. Vatsky.
I'll try to be brief, but I know you'll force me to sit down when my time is up, which is fine. Okay. First thing, when they called out the name Schwartz, I didn't think of Mark Schwartz. I thought of Lou Schwartz. Lou Schwartz was a council member. I don't know if he was mayor, but I remember him well. For the people who think about not extending good and welfare, there's a painting by Norman Rockwell showing good and welfare. You know, it's a famous painting and it's part of our patriotism. So I would hope, not by extending good and welfare indefinitely, we at the Teaneck Democrats, we extend it like a half hour at a time to encourage people to hurry up. All right. I have some handicap problems. And I've been concerned about some of the policies or indifference that we've had about trip hazards in public places. I have photographs. We put in new sidewalk that is officially trip hazards, and people will trip, and people will sue, and Teaneck will pay, and it's come on. It's not good management. Don't allow, I'm sorry, Dean, don't allow people who put an oversized sidewalk to get away with it. Let them correct it, comply with the ADA rules for trip hazards. I trip. When I walk with these gloves. And with knee assist protection. So when I fall, I have some protection when I fall, and I fall in Teaneck. So please improve that. Big issue. I understand there's a bill that the CSX mailed to Teaneck a fee that we're supposed to pay. I'm trying to figure out what service they provided that we have to pay them for. We provide a lot more services to them than they do to us. They should pay us. So I'm going to advise in public, don't pay that tax. Don't pay that bill. What are they going to do? Close the rail line? So let's see where it goes with this. Maybe other towns will pick that up. CSX has got a great opportunity. Wait, they've been milking us for a long time, milking all towns. It's a nationwide problem. Let's let it stop here. Don't pay it. Am I still have time?
You have 14 seconds, Mr.
14
Vesky.
seconds. Okay. Yeah, it's a question of our safety versus CSX money. I don't want to pay them any more money until they provide safer rail service here in Teaneck and along the route.
Thank you, Mr. Vasky. Thank you. Doug, someone on Zoom?
I have Mohammed. Please state your name for the record. Feel free to unmute.
Hi, Muhammad. This is Muhammad here. How are you? Hope everybody's good. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. My name is Muhammad. I live in Teaneck for more than 17 years now. I have noticed certain things on my street, especially because the Hawthorne is next to us. And today, while I was going out, I had to drive my car till the middle of the road just to see if anybody's coming on from the other side. There's a parking issues always whenever there's a time off from the school or time on from the school. People don't care. There's no police officer available to manage the traffic, and kids are passing the roads without looking anywhere, while the guards are there on the corners only. But you can see the parents are crossing from middle of the road towards their car, and while the cars are zooming away. Second thing is Teaneck Township. I don't know what's the rule of it. If there is a construction, they should email ahead of time, one day prior. Just recently, there was a work done on the Glenwood Avenue, and guess how I come to know? While the cars were zooming in front of my house, and I'm like, why these cars are going around? And after half an hour, I got an email from Teaneck Township saying, oh, there's a work done. So can we do something ahead of time, one day prior or something, just to let the people know, or there will be a construction work so people can be aware and make arrangements. Again, I would appreciate what was said. The good and welfare should be for Teaneck Township members, for the public, so you guys can hear us. I mean, the council people can hear us. Again, if we are shortening it is because something is going on in your town, that's not the resolution, right? You guys are paid. You guys took an oath to hear us, to hear your own Teaneck Township people. That's it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Schwartz.
So the monuments were mentioned, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations regarding the history of the proposed monuments on our township green. So almost 10 years ago, two groups of Teaneck residents decided, with the agreement of the township, to raise money to build two monuments to remember in perpetuity the atrocities committed against two groups of people. The monuments would serve the purpose of educating the public about how such atrocities came about in hopes of preventing such evil in the future. The two committees formed were the Holocaust Memorial Committee, a subdivision of the Jewish Community Council of Greater Teaneck, and the Enslaved African Memorial Committee, EAMC. Each committee engaged prominent architects to design their respective memorial monuments. The monument projects quickly grew in expected costs to millions of dollars. As the concept developed, the Teaneck Library became a third partner in this effort. The library's role was twofold: to provide the expanded educational materials to support the two monuments, and to provide the financial oversight and management for the projects. For the purposes of marketing and fundraising, this tripart entity was named the Garden to Nurture Human Understanding. This merger changed the two small community volunteer projects into a massive public venture whose leaders hoped to raise the millions of dollars from public and private grants, private donations, and committee membership funds. During the course of meeting and planning, the leadership and membership of all three partners changed. The library, charged with providing financial oversight for the entire project, has had 3 different directors since 2018. Also, the library had major municipal responsibilities during the COVID pandemic. Consequently, the management and financial oversight of what is now a multi-million-dollar enterprise has, out of necessity, been more or less left to languish. The two committee entities, the Jewish Community Council of Greater Teaneck, of which the Holocaust Memorial Committee is a subcommittee, and the EAMC are 5013C nonprofit corporations, and each has raised some funds. The largest grant provided by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs is believed to be between $300,000 and $400,000 and is believed to be issued to the broader enterprise, the Garden. I ask the council to please keep this background in mind, because a subsequent speaker from the coalition, hopefully will be heard tonight, will further demonstrate why we feel there is a need for an independent audit of the Monuments Initiative.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Someone on Zoom, Mr. Clerk?
I have Senator Loretta Weinberg up. Please feel free to unmute. You are welcome to share your camera too. No problem.
Thank you and good evening. I would like to join the prior speaker and the coalition of neighborhoods, along with former council member Henry Pruitt, in urging the council to do an independent audit. As the person who might have been the most responsible for getting state funds for what we thought was going to be two kind of small neighborhood monuments, and after looking at what's happened over the last 3 or 4 years, where something over $350,000 has been given to these two organizations, I believe the council should do an independent audit. I think the state gives money through the municipality rather than directly to the organizations, so that there is some public transparency and accountability. So I urge you to please vote and authorize the independent audit so that the Teaneck taxpayers, Teaneck residents can see exactly how past funds have been spent and what the future of these two monuments might be. Now, though they are planning to try to be funded through contributions, we are talking about public property, about maintenance, about security, about lighting, about a number of other things that will be an ongoing cost to Teaneck residents. So again, I urge you to please vote and authorize the independent audit. Secondly, having sat on this council for 4 years, having sat on the council during the time of heightened public participation soon after the Pinnell shooting in Teaneck, I urge you not to limit good and welfare to 1 hour. You only have one public meeting a month, sometimes two. The only time the public can be heard before the full council and before whatever audience of Teaneck residents watch these council meetings. So having sat there and listened to public sometimes well into the night, it comes with the territory. It's part of the job. Too much manipulation can take place by limiting good and welfare to 1 hour. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Mr. Rose?
Thank you. Howard Rose, Teaneck resident. I was at the meeting at the high school for Sebastian Rodriguez. There were about 200 people. And when he spoke, he gave one of the most droll, funny remarks I've heard from him. And I've known him for years, 9 years together on the planning board and before that as well. He looked at the people, there were about 200 people there, and said, now I know what it's going to look like at my funeral. There was a lot of people there with a lot of insight into what he's done for this community, and I congratulate him, and I congratulate the people who worked with him to help better Teaneck. Regarding our ambulance corps, I wonder, Ms. Organ, you may have statistics. How many households in the last 10 years have received their services? I bet it's an astronomical number. Good and welfare. Used to be 5 minutes, was reduced to 3 minutes. President Abraham Lincoln did his Gettysburg Address in less than 3 minutes. I wish we were orators as good as him, but we're not. You have to understand that when people speak at good and welfare, many of them are a little intimidated. They're not used to public speaking. They literally have difficulty in getting their thoughts condensed into a short period of time. Let them speak. I hear the complaint that it's repetitive. Well, it may sound repetitive to a certain degree, but it's each person speaking perhaps on the same topic, but with a different perspective. And when you hear a lot of people speaking about the same topic, it really tells you something regarding the magnitude and level of their concerns. Let them speak. What I don't want to see is good and welfare become good for nothing. Doesn't make sense. Let them speak. You need to know, and they need to know that you know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
I have Debbie Rutz. You are free to unmute.
Hi, I'm Debbie Rutz. I'm Debbie Siegel Rutz. Rabbi Louis J. Siegel was my dad, and I'm here to support the resolution to rename Windsor Road to Rabbi Louis J. Siegel. He was the spiritual leader of Temple Emeth on Windsor Road for more than 4 decades. We moved to Teaneck in 1960 from Malden, Massachusetts, where my dad's first congregation was. I was about 18 months old when we moved to Teaneck. Today, I'm almost 65 years old. Here was my dad, a young rabbi with his young family, entering into a Teaneck that was bubbling with choices and challenges. What was my dad to do? In 1965, my dad was a young man of great integrity and principle, a tireless advocate for justice and equality. It was these qualities that motivated him to raise his voice for righteousness by speaking up at a Teaneck Board of Ed meeting and stating that we have a responsibility to each other. We cannot look away. You know what happens, as he is quoted in the book, Triumph in a White Suburb. The resolution was passed, and we became the first town in the United States to integrate our public schools. I attended our public schools. Interestingly, I married my husband, a Roman Catholic boy. Although my dad adored my husband, Ken Rutz, I knew my dad would not officiate at our wedding. I treasured that he was able to love deeply and yet remained grounded to the principles that made him a great rabbi. My dad, a Reform rabbi, recognized the importance of a mikveh, which is used primarily by our Orthodox community, and supported building one on the edge of Temple Emeth's property. 18 years after we were married, Ken decided to convert. Lou was enthusiastically able to perform this conversion in that very mikveh. I grew up in the house right next door on Windsor Road to Temple Emeth. This is where I rode my bike and played as a child. For over 4 decades, Rabbi Louis J. Siegel walked this road to Temple Emmett daily, where he provided spiritual leadership, guidance, support to his congregation, and influenced generations of children. Renaming this street in honor of my dad is a tangible reminder of the values he embodied and the principles for which he fought. It also is a testament to our town's commitment to inclusivity, diversity, and progress. I'm so proud to support this wonderful resolution that would have pleased and honored but humbled my dad at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Ma'am.
Hello, Lisa Bylander Gray. In August 2023, the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations for a Better Teaneck was formed. It's dedicated to improving the quality of life for all Teaneck residents. We are the East Votee Neighborhood Association, Northeast Teaneck Block Presidents Association, Northwest of Cedar Lane Neighborhood Association, and the Southwest Teaneck Neighborhood Association. I am a member of the Northwest of Cedar Lane Neighborhood Association. We are proud to live in a diverse Teaneck community where so many different religious, racial, and ethnic groups live and work together. We believe that decisions concerning the town-sponsored Holocaust Memorial and the Enslaved African Memorial should be guided by 2 essential elements. First, the plan should enhance education and deepen understanding of these atrocities, especially by telling stories from the perspectives of the victims and their descendants. Second, the process leading to the development of the plan and the ultimate product should have unifying Teaneck's diverse residents as its main goal. We believe the best way to honor the different religious, racial, and ethnic groups that comprise our diverse community would be to institute a more in-depth, ongoing plan to educate all of us regarding the history and struggles of our ancestors and the people who make up the town of Teaneck. The 2 brick and mortar monuments that were proposed and voted on by the council to erect will only serve, we believe, to cause division and animosity among the various subcommunities in the township of Teaneck. People who belong to religious, racial, and ethnic groups have been subjected to atrocities and horrific occurrences throughout history. I am the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. While we strive to remember, honor, and respect the trials and tribulations that our subcommunities have experienced, we must also concentrate our efforts and take action to improve our relations with each other by acquiring knowledge of our histories, understanding our commonalities, and respecting our differences. We need to accept that above all, as a people, we should accept each other. Another member of our coalition can outline a much more specific plan that we propose. Gloria Wilson, I hope you'll call on her. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Doug, someone on Zoom?
I have Baruch here. Please state your name for the record. Feel free to unmute. You're welcome to start your camera.
My wife is saying with me she's not wearing a head covering right now, so.
Yes, please
sir.
state your name for the record.
My name is Umair Farouk.
Cool, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, council members and fellow Teaneck residents. We started this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. In it, the ideals of freedom, liberty, and justice are appealing to all. If not upheld by those in position of power, these same ideals become as useful as a screen door on a submarine. The law of our land, as written in the Constitution, is currently under attack. The First Amendment rights are being sold to the highest bidder, that being the lobby group AIPAC, in order to shield the state from criticism. They're trying to pass laws to limit our rights under disguise of hate speech. I tell you, this is a slippery slope. Based on Immanuel Kant's theory, by doing so, such actions, one day your speech could become limited and labeled as hate speech. These moves are meant to silence people by bullying and blacklisting those that speak up against injustice, by proposing that anything said against a state is equivalent to anti-Semitism and against the Jewish faith. What we have here is the weaponization of the term anti-Semitism, which actually detracts from its true meaning and depth. When everything is labeled as anti-Semitism, then this obscures and casts doubt upon actual anti-Semitism, which is horrific. It is unjust to those of the Jewish faith that do not support the actions of the apartheid state. The spreading of propaganda, which contains a blatant and clear use of a strawman fallacy and expecting people to accept it. The thing about false narrative and propaganda is that they fall flat when confronted with reasoning and logic. The spreaders of propaganda forget that we, the people, are intelligent human beings capable of critical thinking and can draw our own conclusions. As Americans, we have the God-given right to criticize any country's action which we disagree with, be it some ally, China, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and so on. Currently under attack in this town is the right to assemble peacefully, intimidating brave youth that are courageous enough to stand against a biased administration and smear campaigns. The unethical action of portraying peaceful protests, boycotting, and other nonviolent actions as being equivalent to terrorist acts and anti-Semitism. It was through these peaceful acts that brought on the civil rights movements, ending segregation, and Jim Crow laws. These same practices propelled this country in the right direction and made us proud to be Americans. It is through the actions by past youth that now we are able to celebrate Black History Month. It was Brother Malcolm X that said, if we are not careful, the media will have us loving the oppressor and hating the oppressed. By attacking youths that exercise their God-given rights, we are doing harm to the nation and sending a message to future generations that they do not have a voice. And there is no acceptable way for them to express their dissatisfaction with policy. Lowering the morale of the nation, ultimately democracy will be viewed as hypocrisy. Thank you.
Ma'am, in the front. Yes. Yeah, just so everyone is aware, I usually go side to side, but we always do someone in chambers and someone on Zoom, but side to side.
Hello, my name is Juanita Brown, and I am here to read a statement supporting an audit of the structure and finances of the quote, "The Garden to Nurture Human Understanding," Part 2. On behalf of the Coalition of the Neighborhood Associations, I will represent further evidence for the need of an independent audit of the Monument Initiative. The Coalition of Neighborhood Associations for a Better Teaneck has sought basic information about the amount of public funds raised and how they were used. We and other community organizations to whom we have spoken have not been able to determine that, which is why we are asking for an independent audit. 1, the exact amount granted by the Department of Community Affairs. 2, exactly to whom it was granted, quote, the Garden, the Township of Teaneck. 3, the amounts received by each committee and the library. The Jewish Community Council Form 1990 submitted to the IRS does not separate out amounts received, used for the individual projects, So we don't know what money went where and to whom. Form 1990s for the Enslaved African Memorial Committee do not appear on any of the recognized charities websites. Maybe they weren't submitted, but they're not there nevertheless. There is no readily available public financial statement from the library. So no one knows anything. As well, there appears to be no formal records of private funds received by the Garden or the separate entities. So those who did donate, where is it? However, there is documentation that shows some paid invoices and list of the expenditures by each of the committees. These can be found on teaneckvoices.com website. At the February 13th council meeting, council members debated the merits of expending public funds to hire an external firm to conduct an audit of the structure and financing of the Garden to Nurture Human Understanding. No conclusions were reached. However, the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations believes an independent external audit is imperative. Why is this external audit necessary? There are absent records. We have no idea, as I said before, who got what, when, and how much. There is confusing information on the documents, no clarity. There has been changing leaderships and memberships within each of the three partners.
Thank you,
It is imperative
Thank you, Ms.
that you support an independent audit.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
And please don't pay
We
that
have
fee to the.
John Moscow, please unmute, state your name for the record. Feel free to open
Unmute,
your
yes.
camera.
Hi, my name is John Moscow. I'm a longtime Teaneck resident. First, I want to join in thanking and congratulating TVAC and age-friendly Teaneck. I am a Jew and I am a member of Northern New Jersey Jewish Voice for Peace, but I'm speaking for myself tonight. I want to address several comments that Council Member Goldberg has made in council meetings.
Mr. Mayor, I think you have
Please,
to address the whole
Mr.
council.
Give me a
Yes,
second,
I
please.
am
Mr.
addressing
Moscow,
the
Mr.
entire
Moscow,
council.
we're going to pause your time, please, just for a second. If you can address the council through me instead of individual members, if possible. Your
Yes,
time is back on, sir.
I'm addressing the council as a whole, but I'm addressing comments that were made at a council meeting. And were endorsed essentially in many ways by the council, the horrendous council vote that endorsed Israel and the Israeli government without concern for Palestinian lives, thoughts, or feelings. So in a sense, this is addressed to the entire council. I am very upset at the idea that some members of the council are telling students that they are anti-Semitic because they use the phrase "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," and accuse them of being anti-Semitic, even when the students make it very clear that they are not saying it with anti-Semitic meaning. And if one actually looks at the history of this phrase, it overwhelmingly has not been associated with anti-Semitism. As I understand it, a council member claimed that only Jews can say what is anti-Semitic. I'm sure that Jean-Paul Sartre, who wrote a book called Anti-Semite and Jew, would be startled to hear that, as would many other people. But we don't have to go to non-Jews. There are at least three major definitions of anti-Semitism: the IRA definition, the Jerusalem definition, and the Nexus definition. None are perfect, but IRA is the worst because it conflates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism, and I'll return to that shortly. Jewish Currents and The Forward, both of which are Jewish, have said that they don't consider From the River to the Sea to be anti-Semitic. So nobody has the right to tell students that they're being anti-Semitic for stating that they want Palestine to be free from genocide and apartheid. What they can say—
Please, so we can hear him, please.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Mr. Moscow, sorry.
Okay, what they can say is that it makes them feel uncomfortable, which is fine. And I hope they're also uncomfortable with genocide, with the deaths of thousands of Palestinians, with goons running wild on the West Bank with the support of the military. And the fact that Likud, in its founding documents, calls for Jewish supremacy from the river to the sea. Since I'm running out of time, I just want to say that the IRA definition is up for a vote by the legislature. I hope that the Teaneck Town Council will urge its denial, that it not be passed, because it conflates Zionism, anti-Zionism, with anti-Semitism. I also hope that the council will repudiate the planned sale of land on March 10th in October in occupied territory.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Young lady in the front.
Hi, my name is Layla, Teaneck resident. I've been coming to these meetings for the past almost 6 months, and I am exhausted. And so today I am just going to read some names of 10-year-olds who have been martyred since October because my youngest son is 10. Abdul Hadi Mansour, 10 years old. Abdul Rahman Al Hawa, 10 years old. Abdullah Shaheen, 10 years old. Abdullah Qadir, 10 years old. Abdullah Habub, 10 years old. Abdullah Suwaidan, 10 years old. Adam Awadallah, 10 years old. Adam Al Aidi, 10 years old. Adam Al Faluji, 10 years old. Ahmed Al Arja, 10 years old. Ahmed Abu Dahrouj, 10 years old. Ahmed Addous, 10 years old. Ahmed Al Shair, 10 years old. Ahmed Mahmoud, 10 years old. Ahmed Ali Hassouna, 10 years old. Ahmed Mansour, 10 years old. Ahmed Zakout, 10 years old. Ahmed Abu Awad, 10 years old. Ahmed Abu Hilal, 10 years old. Ahmed Abu Fayyad, 10 years old. Ahmed Ali, 10 years old. Ahmed Al Majdalawi, 10 years old. Akram Al Hana, 10 years old. Ala Al Fanqa, 10 years old. Amal Arif, 10 years old. Amal Halul, 10 years old. Amin Akar, 10 years old. Amira Shalouf, 10 years old. Andalus Dahir, 10 years old. Arij Halawa, 10 years old. Arwa Maruf, 10 years old. Asil Abu Ishaq, 10 years old. Asil Abu Ajwa, 10 years old. Asma Abu Maghasib, 10 years old. Aya Al Halu, 10 years old. Bakr Al Na'uq, 10 years old. Basim Khalil Basim, 10 years old. Bayan Hamdan Tuta, 10 years old. Bilal Salaha, 10 years old. Ibrahim Abu Singer, 10 years old. Ibrahim Khalid Abu Jazar, 10 years old. Ibrahim Habush, 10 years old. Ibrahim Aziz, 10 years old. Islam Abdullah Darwish, 10 years old. Ismail Al-Astal, 10 years old.
Thank you, ma'am. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Michael Rockland. Please unmute, state your name for the record.
Hi all, Michael Rockland, scenic resident. Apologies in advance if you hear a baby crying. We have a newborn at home. I'm calling in tonight because I've noticed something that I've been noticing for a long time ever since I moved back to Teaneck during the pandemic, and that is that our streets are not nearly as safe as I remember them being when I was growing up here. Routinely, we see and hear about cars that are speeding. Routinely, and even personally in my family, we hear about people who are hit by cars. In the past week, I heard about somebody who was hit crossing Cedar Lane, and these incidents are increasing not only right here in Teaneck, but are increasing nationally. But we're also lucky in that cities and towns across the nation are realizing that there's something we can do about it, and that is being proactive in designing our streets to be safe. We heard about this earlier, and I don't know if he intended it from Art. We heard about this earlier from the gentleman, I believe his name was Mohammed, about people and sidewalks and crossings that are not safe, that prioritize the ability of cars to speed, to go fast, at the expense of people who are trying to cross the street, at the expense of people who are trying to get to schools, who are trying to go to our local businesses, to our parks, to all the wonderful things that Teaneck has. And so I, along with a number of people who have started to gather on social media, just wanted to say to the council and to the Teaneck government that this is something that Teaneck really can make a difference in our lives. We really can take small steps to improve the safety of our streets, whether that's by using paint to narrow lanes, by exploring how we can improve sidewalks, improve crosswalks. I noticed this week that at the corner of Queen Anne and State Street, right near where I live, we put up a new no turn on red sign so that people could see more clearly, because the sign has very small letters. We can do that all over town. We can explore whether or not it makes sense to make it so that there's no turn on red in many of our intersections, not just Monday to Friday from 7 to 4, but actually all day, every day, so that kids who are crossing the street can cross the street safely, no matter what time of day it is, so that elderly people who may not be able to run as fast can cross the street safely. And I hope that as we build a better Teaneck, we make our streets safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rockland. Sir, in the black shirt.
Hi, my name is Rich Siegel. I'm a 25-year homeowner here in Teaneck. I'm Jewish. The reason that I'm telling you that I'm Jewish is because I have a concern about something that's going on in the Jewish community. On March 10th, there is scheduled to be an Israeli real estate sales event at the Keter Torah Synagogue. That event violates both domestic law and international law. Violates domestic law because we had a Civil Rights Act in 1965 and a Fair Housing Act in 1968. We don't allow real estate events to be for whites only, for Jews only, for anybody only. Now, as Jews, we don't get to fly under the radar and break the law and hide it in a synagogue. It violates international law because West Bank settlement homes are going to be available for sale at this real estate event. On the website, it lists 3 different West Bank settlements. Those settlements are in and of themselves illegal by international law. If we allow this sale to go through, we are enabling a local synagogue to violate both domestic anti-discrimination laws and international law. Now, there's other reasons we shouldn't allow it, okay? There's a genocide going on right now. I don't care who that offends. More than 35,000 people have been killed. More than 13,000 children have been killed. People in this community are in deep mourning. People in this community are angry. I'm angry. What this real estate event is going to do is it's going to fan the flames. If it goes forward, there will be a demonstration. I know there's going to be a demonstration because I'm going to organize it. It will be very well attended. What I'm saying needs to be done is, I don't know how much power this mayor and this council have to actually shut down the event, but I know you have the power to recommend that it be shut down. And I'm asking you to please do it. We don't need to have more divisiveness in this community, okay? We don't need to have Jewish privilege rule the day by saying we're entitled to break the law and have this real estate event and not care about how so many people in this community feel about it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Sharuk. Please feel free to unmute, state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to express my disappointment at the lack of care exhibited by some of the council members. It's disheartening that the good and welfare portion has been capped to 1 hour, especially when many residents are waiting on Zoom to speak. These tough conversations are crucial, and it's important for you to listen to each constituent you represent. Turning on camera seems like a motive to intimidate speakers, and the Teaneck community as a whole has had enough of this type of hate. I'm also concerned about council members resisting a complete audit of organizations requesting to build monuments on the greens. There are red flags, and the lack of transparency raises concerns. I don't believe it's appropriate or inclusive of the Teaneck community, especially considering the ongoing genocide currently in Gaza. Will there be a consideration for a monument honoring the innocent Palestinian lives lost? These are some of the names of the children who didn't make it to their first birthday that would be included on the monument. Abdel Jawaz Mizar, 0 years old. Abdel Khalik Badi, 0 years old. Abdurrahim Ahmed, 0 years old. Abdurrahman Ahmed, 0 years old. Abdurrahman Samir, 0 years old. Abdul Rauf Ibrahim, 0 years old. Abdul Karim Abdullah, 0 years old. Abdul Karim Kamil, 0 years old. Abdul Ahmed Khalil, 0 years old. Abdul Amir Abdullah, 0 years old. Abdullah Muhammad Abdul Hamid, 0 years old. Adam Majdi Jabir, 0 years old. Adam Muhammad Fuad, 0 years old. Adam Muhammad Samir, 0 years old. Ahmed Mu'min Ahmed, 0 years old. Ahmed Muhammad Amin, 0 years old. Ahmed Muhammad Yasir, 0 years old. Ahmed Saeed Ahmed, 0 years old. Ahmed Shadi Talal, 0 years old. Ahmed Talat Ali, 0 years old. Aisha Jihad Jalal, 0 years old. Alia Abdel Noor Sami, 0 years old. Alma Adnan Jamal, 0 years old. Alma Mu'min Muhammad, 0 years old. Alma Qais Abdul Karim, 0 years old. Alian Abdul Rahman, 0 years old. Amal Mahmoud Muhammad, 0 years old. Amal Muhammad Ahmed, 0 years old. Amir Mahmoud Zuhdi, 0 years old. Anas Abdullah Aziz, 0 years old. Anas Abdullah Baha, 0 years old. Anas Tariq Muhammad, 0 years old. Anisa Mahmoud Ahmed, 0 years old. Anwar Muhammad Ahmed, 0 years old. Asid Hussein Muhammad, 0 years old. Asil Amir Ali, 0 years old. Asil Muhammad Jum'a, 0 years old. As you can see, like the list goes on and on. So if we decide to approve monuments, when does it end? Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Ms. Wilson.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Wilson. I'm a 36-year resident of Teaneck. I'm also a member and the president of the Northeast Teaneck Block Association. And I appreciate us getting the time to speak. The previous speaker before me on the coalition described why we believe that we need to seek a process that will continue to everyone's understanding and a process that will help unify Teaneck's residents. The impetus for this is not coming from erecting, honoring, or only 2 subcommittees. It will be from making the Teaneck Public Library a center of human understanding. The library should contain resources that represent all communities in the township. The mission is clear. The focal point of human understanding is through information, not by erecting monuments. As a plan, number 1, we should provide resources for learning not only about the Holocaust and enslaved Africans, but also about histories of other groups representing in our diverse township. These resources would be available at the Teaneck Public Library, virtually and other spaces, which would be accessible to the public. Develop and publicize ongoing educational forums about these many histories. And last, develop fundraising direct toward procuring resources, exhibits, and programs that would further the education and understanding of Teaneck's residents. I also want to speak a few minutes on good and welfare. If good and welfare could start at 8 o'clock like it should be, we'd have enough people being able to speak. If good and welfare and the council members would understand that when you are elected because of giving promises to the community that you would listen and understand what each person had to say. We cannot come up here with our personal vendors and speak to you, and you should not be allowed to sit up on the dais with your personal vendors against people that want to speak. I also hope that people listen to Senator Loretta Weinberg, including myself, and go along with the audit. Give respect, you will get respect, and you'll also get the need of the people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Yes, bringing in Chandra Young. Chandra Young, please unmute. State your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, Chandra Young.
I just want to say I'm glad that Leadership Teaneck is being put forth. I was a graduate of that course in 2012. I also want to say that I agree with the sentiments of Ms. Gloria Wilson that if we start good and welfare earlier, we could get everyone in. In order to do that, we need to do workshops. And I haven't seen that put forth. Also, I want to talk about Bill S50. Just wondering if the Affordable Housing Subcommittee has looked at this bill. It's been referred to the Senate, and the bill says it reforms the municipal responsibilities concerning provisions of affordable housing. It abolishes COA and it appropriates $16 million. Just want to know if you've reached out to legislation. Has the attorney reviewed this? Because this is important for us to stay on top of it. Also, Bill S2347, that bill concerns the development of ADUs and how the municipal will be responsible for it. And it seems like New Jersey is making this a mandate. If you can just let us know how that's going to affect us as well. And I believe that's it. And also, I took that website survey. It was a great survey. Hopefully, I put a lot of detail in that, and hopefully, you take that into consideration. And also want to thank the daughter of Rabbi Siegel for giving us that vivid and detailed information about her father. That was really good. And I got a minute. And I believe that's it. Don't want to take up any more of your time, but if you can just look into those two bills and just let us know, have you done anything proactive to address that for the residents?
Thank you, Ms. Young. Mr. Berliner?
Avi Berliner, Teaneck resident. Thank you to the expertise and efforts of Township Manager Dean Kaczynski, Superintendent of Recreation Glenna Crockett, Department of DPW Director Trayvon Romeo, Council, prior PPRB and current most Chair Ken Hoffman, past and current PPRB and most members who volunteer time, expertise, and efforts to better the community for all, and the residents who engage and provide feedback to effectively advise council as they direct funding projects and programs to support for parks and related infrastructure. While Teaneck struggled with others for funding and resources during the COVID pandemic, the township, its leadership, and volunteers continue to invest in the community. There is so much more we will accomplish working together, but contrary to the narrative, here are some of the highlights since 2020. What follows is a partial list, with many more considered, advised, completed, and planned that can be mentioned in the 3 minutes allotted. Give me 5. To start, the township provides a $2,500 grant to local youth sports organizations. New playgrounds and swings in Terhune, Coolidge, Hart, Andreas, and Votee. New walking paths in Phelps and Parks. In Hawthorne in 22, we resurfaced the facility and installed new hybrid tennis and pickleball courts. 2023, we completed renovations to the 90-foot baseball field, including repairs to irrigation, fencing, the bullpen, and the batting cage. And in 24, as the manager introduced, we broke ground on the new Teaneck Southern Major Baseball Field. In Phelps, there were repairs to the dog park surface, as well as installing new bathrooms and purchasing new grills and picnic tables. In Brooks in 23, we purchased new benches, 15 in total, which are actually being installed across various parks. In Herrick, in 2024, there's planned to start work on a $1.7 million park renovation, including new lighted basketball courts, baseball field, playground, bathroom, splash pad, walking path, and benches. In Sagamore Park, there was a purchase of new soccer goals, as well as in 24, it plans for a conceptual plan and design and process for renovations to the park. A $1.8 million project to include renovations to the baseball field, 3 new playgrounds, a splash pad, bathroom, and new walking pathway. In Amman, there were new tennis courts that were striped for hybrid pickleball use. And in 2024, there's going to be resurfacing at Oregon Tennis Court and Andreas to include 4 new pickleball courts. Some miscellaneous items, partnering with the Historical Commission to support the procurement and installation of historical markers around town, working with staff for review of the health of planted trees and renewal of the Phelps Arboretum, and 2024 installing 10 new park signs, 14 new water fountains, a van replacement, and contracting for field maintenance. Some items around Votee Park and the Rhoda Center. New inclusive playground surface and outdoor exercise fitness stations installed. We all know about the new field house, new band shell, and installation of new outdoor game tables and chairs. Renovations to the Rhoda Center completed, including gym lights, new tarps purchased for both TBO and Southern, as well as new basketball courts installed last year, with lockers and improvements to the Voti swimming pool. Complete renovations to Lancers Field, including new irrigation and fencing. Also upgraded electronic doors at Rhoda. 2024, new tennis courts, shade and shelter, and gym fans will be installed. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, sir. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Sorry. Shayna Brander, please state your name for the record. Feel free to unmute.
Hello, and thank you for this time. It was very encouraging to hear about the council's serious attention to the traffic safety concerns raised on last month's meeting regarding Palmer Avenue. I would like to join my neighbors from last month and from tonight in highlighting another area which should be looked at. I live in the Country Club neighborhood, specifically on Country Club Drive. It was designed as a small, quiet, tree-lined residential street, but together with Redmond Street and East Lawn Drive has turned into a full-fledged thoroughfare for anyone looking to bypass Teaneck Road between Route 4 and the New Jersey Turnpike. During rush hours, there is a steady stream of commuter traffic whizzing past children waiting for their school buses on the side of the road. Trucks and motorcycles drive past at all hours. On Saturdays, neighborhood families walking to the local synagogue need to remain on high alert as cars swerve around their baby strollers and elderly. There aren't any speed impediments or sidewalks on this block. This poses a major risk to the residents on these blocks and their neighbors. As the mother of a young child, I worry for the safety of my son as he grows older and wants to do everyday activities like ride his bike, walk to a nearby friend, or pull our car out of the driveway when he learns to drive. With the recent focus on traffic safety in Teaneck, I'm confident that a solution can be found to mitigate this issue. Living in the area and witnessing the daily traffic flow, I have a few ideas that might help, which I would be happy to share with the committee. I'm grateful to everyone here and the council for the opportunity to raise this issue and for all their effort to make Teaneck a safer community for all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alice Garcia, and I live at 1295 Alicia Avenue. I've been living here and I raised my kids here. I've been here for 42 years. I am a member of the East Voti Neighborhood Association, which is part of the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations for a Better Teaneck. On behalf of this coalition, I would like to read the following statement. The Coalition of Neighborhood Associations for a Better Teaneck strongly opposes the action of the town council that cut off public input after 1 hour during good and welfare of the February 13th, 2024 meeting. There were 19 people waiting to speak when discussion was suddenly curtailed. This action is in direct contradiction to the democratic principles of openness, inclusion, and public participation. Many, if not all, council members ran for office on these principles. Hearing directly from residents and certainly not silencing them is essential to good government. We strongly urge the council to adopt the procedure whereby the good and welfare segment of town council meetings remains open, such that each resident who wishes to speak will be given that opportunity. And I have to say, I listened to all the glowing reports about Teaneck, and yes, there's certain things that I do like, but I've also noticed the hostility at times. It's very different. And I'm going to tell you, when you start dividing, you can't get it back together. It's very hard. I was in Mississippi in the civil rights, and I know what I'm talking about. I saw it. I felt fear. I was frightened. There was the hostility. And I hope this doesn't happen in Teaneck. I mean, I don't think it's quite that bad. I know what a Ku Klux Klaner looks like. But I would just like to say that we better get it together, people, and stop dividing. We have many, many differences in this town. Not even the things that were mentioned today. There are so many others that need to be looked at. And we have to be honest. Honesty is not happening here, just from what I've seen and heard. I've gone to meetings, where the council, with not these people necessarily, sat on that stage and talked down to people. I'll never forget that. And I didn't come back for a while, but I want to be part of this town, trying in my small way to make it a better place.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ms. Garcia.
Rachel, please state your name for the record.
Yes, hi, this is Rachel Kaplan, Teaneck resident. And I just want to thank everybody for being here, council members and the attendees. So I just want to sincerely thank the emergency services of Teaneck because what they do is very, very important. And I'm truly grateful that they are safe and able to do what they do because that is not the case for all EMTs. For example, the Red Crescent in Gaza had to be suspended since yesterday because safety concerns for their staff, because Israeli bombs will not stop falling down upon them. This has, of course, been going on since October, and many of whom have been killed. 630 medical staff, doctors, nurses, EMTs have been killed since. And when I say killed, I mean murdered. They didn't just die of natural causes. There have been 30,000 people killed in very few months, which obviously that falls under genocide. And I'm still appalled to the fact that I live in a town whose council members have decided to vote and pass a resolution that enables this. It's absolutely revolting to even think about it. And the saddest part of it all is 13,000 children have been murdered since October. And I would like to read names of children that have not even been able to see their first year. They were born during this genocide and unfortunately were not able to survive it. Itaf Riyad, 0 years old. Izad Saq Allah, 0 years old. Fadil Abu Hasira, 0 years old. Fahd Al-Ajiz, 0 years old. Farah Yusuf Bahar, 0 years old. Farah Karim Hanoun, infant. Farah Abu Shahab, an infant. Fatima Al-Sultan, an infant. Fayrouz Salima, an infant. Firaz Tamraz, an infant. George Al-Suri, an infant. Hala Al-Sanwar, an infant. Hamza Ashur, an infant. Hassan Al-Amsi, an infant. The list goes on. We would be here taking up hours upon hours upon hours if we were to name every single one of them. So please remember that this town does not stand for genocide, does not stand by Israel's acts. Free Palestine as always.
Sir?
Hello, Yusuf Awadullah, Teaneck resident. I wanted to make a statement to the community. Ramadan is around the corner, and we must not forget how the Muslim community was marginalized the last couple months in this town. I'm not sure if there's a crescent lighting in the works to kick off the holiest month of Ramadan in Teaneck. If one was planned, I would like to suggest that we cancel it. We don't want it. Meaningless gestures won't undo the damage that has been done by this council. With over 30,000 Palestinians dead, how can we even celebrate anything? Why would we give this council yet another photo op? It's been made abundantly clear that most of this town council is unable to serve all residents of the township of Teaneck. We have all witnessed the lies spewed by a councilwoman. We have heard her double down on the same lies at every council meeting. Fabricated narratives made by another councilwoman, only to have her deflect a request for an apology at the very next meeting. She went on to give examples of what intimidation is without any acknowledgement of her own slanderous words. We have all witnessed temper tantrums from councilmen when he's presented with any opposing views. You are not sitting there to attain your own personal agendas. You are sitting in front of me to fulfill public trust. Your blatant disregard for my community would no longer be tolerated. You're clearly unable to serve the needs of Teaneck. Your words have endangered the safety of those in my community and of those who are on the side of humanity. The council has prioritized foreign interests over the needs of the very community it swore to serve, thus jeopardizing the safety and peace of this town. There is no shame in admitting that you cannot fulfill your oath of office. Step down now, resign immediately. This will be your best contribution to the Township of Teaneck thus far. Finally, I wanted to address the length of these meetings. I do agree with you. Midnight is way too late for a town council meeting. However, when this council continuously makes false statements and attributes them to individuals by name, we will address it. Stop making false statements, and maybe these meetings will be wrapped up much quicker. If you don't want to be called out by name, then keep our names out of your mouth. Thank you.
Someone on Zoom, guys?
We have Steve Fox. Please unmute. State your name for the record. Feel free to show your camera.
Steve Fox, Teaneck resident, president of the Jewish Community Council of Greater Teaneck. I want to simply say, for those of you who want to change the narrative of the memorials and want to create something for all oppressed people, let me just simply say that the original plan for the garden was to have space for more than one memorial, actually for 4. So if anybody here would like to raise funds and create something for a broader group, you're more than welcome to do that. Similarly, I want to point out that the joint memorials were both agreed upon by council twice at the helmship of Senator Loretta Weinberg and the late Mayor Lizette Parker. This was their vision. The vision hasn't changed. The plans have not changed. We have been approved by the council multiple times. So there's no point really to keep going on and on and on and try to change it. But as I said, we welcome any other group that wants to create a memorial. As I said, there's spots for 4 memorials. And having something in the library is very nice. It's not something that will attract anybody because you can go to any library and learn as much as you want about everything. Our plan for the Holocaust Memorial, and it is an educational one as well, we plan to have interactive educational panels to learn about the lessons, the history, and the importance of what happened during the Holocaust should not happen again. So we welcome everybody to plan something else in addition to what we're doing. There's no place in the world that has a memorial to the Holocaust as well as a memorial to enslaved Africans. So the synergy, should both memorials be successful, God willing, the synergy would be to have people who would go, or who would ordinarily only go to one, go to both. And that's still the philosophy. So we again welcome anybody who wants to do something in addition to what we're doing. You're welcome to do it. You're welcome to have something in the library. You're welcome to have another outdoor exhibit. But please, there's no point on going over and over and over again when we have been agreed upon by resolution multiple times by the council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Rogovan.
Good evening, Paula Rogovan. It's time for a real audit by a real auditor of the spending of state and private funds for the 2 monuments. It's also time to say no to monuments in Teaneck's Township public green space. It's time instead to say yes to funding for educational materials, documents, books, videos, films, as well as ongoing educational forums about the Holocaust, about enslaved Africans, and other tragedies. Yes, it is critically important for Teaneck residents of all ages to learn from these and other tragic histories, not just to memorize facts, but to empower us to make sure we do not repeat the crimes and tragedies of the past. On October 17th, the Teaneck Town Council voted to support the Israeli government in its response to the tragic and horrendous attack on October 7th. Since that vote on October 17th, nearly 30,000 people in Gaza have been killed, the majority of whom are women and children. More than 13,000 children have been killed. More than 70,000 people, human beings, human lives, people have been injured. Countless people have been buried under the rubble of bombed homes, schools, mosques, hospitals, and other facilities. The delivery of medical supplies and food have been blocked by the Israeli government. There is mass starvation in Gaza. Countries around the world call this genocide. I believe it is genocide. If the Teaneck Council insists on going ahead with these two monuments, I request a monument about the slaughter of Palestinians since October 7th and prior to October 7th. I request another monument to the many millions of Native Americans slaughtered and the U.S. service members injured and killed in the Vietnam War and the Iraq and Afghan wars, as well as those who have died by suicide. You can see the flaw in erecting monuments. Can you see that flaw in erecting monuments on Teaneck's Town Green? Education is the answer. Providing resources for teaching and learning about these tragedies is the answer. Monuments will crowd out the green space in front of the municipal complex, but they will not enable the kind of teaching and learning that is so critically important to prevent the tragedies of the past. Say no to monuments, say yes to education.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. And someone on Zoom, Doug?
Ron Schwartz, please unmute, state your name for the record.
Ron Schwartz, 698 Larch Avenue, Teaneck, New Jersey. Good evening, members of the council. I speak tonight on behalf of One Town, One Vote, the grassroots organization that stands for transparency and openness in municipal government. One Town, One Vote was very, very disappointed at the last council meeting when the council turned down the independent audit that was requested by councilpersons Daniel G. and Denise Belcher of the two groups that were planning on doing the monuments on town property. More than $350,000 has been expended, appropriated, and transferred to these groups by the state of New Jersey, our tax money, and we don't know what has happened to those funds. Before the last meeting on January 30th, I was contacted by a gentleman by the name of Gerald Reiner, who apparently was responding to One Town, One Vote's earlier requests for independent audits to be done relating to these monies. He indicated to me that he is a member of the Teaneck Library Board and was conducting on behalf of the town or for the town an audit on the monies that were expended by the Teaneck Library. He indicated that that audit and review of the vouchers that the library spent as part of this effort would be available by the following Monday, which would have been February 4th, 2024. It's now February. He also indicated he would send that review, that audit to me that he was conducting, which I felt was kind of strange that a member of the library board was conducting an audit of its own expenses. Indicated to me it would be available and he would send it to me by February 4th. It's now February 27th, and I have not received any further word from Mr. Reiner. More importantly, Mr. Reiner indicated to me that there was no need for an independent audit because the town had already conducted an audit or audits of these monies that were expended by the monument groups and by the Teaneck Library. So I'm asking tonight, where are those audits? How can we get a hold of them? And why have they not been made public? If they exist, as Mr. Reiner indicated, they should be made public immediately. please respond tonight where these audits are and why they have not been made public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Mr. Kaplan?
Keith Kaplan, Teaneck. Hypocrisy. Thy name is Teaneck. If you've watched these meetings for a little while, and sorry, Mr. Katz left the day, so I was going to mention him. You'll have a
Please address the council. Yeah.
You'll have a line of people coming whenever something mentions rental properties in town. They're going to mention how a council member has properties in town. When the case came up for an audit last meeting, a council member said one of the council members owns part of a newspaper. There's a conflict. Not just enough to mention it, but to invoke the rules to require recusal. I don't think I've ever seen that one. What gets a pass on hypocrisy, though? Well, for 10 years, we've had resolutions, MOUs, ordinances, conversations, every conversation you can imagine about monuments, but they were linked. The Holocaust and the Slavery Memorial were linked. All of a sudden, they weren't linked. Now we got problems. We need an audit. Well, it's state money and people are accusing the town of nefarious actions. Why aren't you calling for the state to audit it? Yeah. Other hypocrisy. The BOE goes and kicks out a long-standing principle at an all-Zoom meeting. They have 2 minutes per person, even though they're normally 3 minutes. They lower it to an hour. Everyone on Zoom, 10 times the amount of people waiting as a council meeting. They had over 200 people waiting on Zoom that they didn't let speak. These associations never showed up, never said anything. I emailed them, didn't even get a response, nothing. Why is your meeting of an hour so offensive, but other meetings are not? We'll put a pin in that one. When you have a member of the town council who is a real estate agent, who goes and votes on ordinances for properties that she sells, who speaks out against a property because of its zoning, and then becomes the real estate agent for the property, making a whole lot more than you do on an ad to a newspaper. Nothing. When you shepherd the ordinances through the planning board as the representative there, nothing, even though you make money on it. When you create and shepherd the master plan itself, nothing. No one has a problem. That's not hypocrisy. Good thing you don't have any rentals on West Englewood Ave.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Cheryl Hall, please unmute. Say your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Hall. I am a more than 50-year resident here in the Township of Teaneck. I want to thank the esteemed members of the council for their calm demeanor tonight and their transparency and having an open discussion, which clearly I know everyone had varying disagreements on, but I really appreciate bringing that to the forefront. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Danielle G, for bringing up the issues. And I really do appreciate working with you and your leadership in the Advisory Board of Community Relations as well. Last night, we had a lively discussion, including giving Dr. Pruitt 30 minutes of our time to really hear some of the issues. On behalf of the advisory board, I will say that we are also concerned at the limiting of good and welfare to 1 hour. And we encourage the council to make every effort possible to come to some type of consensus. We do understand when things get out of control with name crawling, that it can be very difficult. But all residents need to be heard. And with that, I'd also like to advocate for the street renaming for Rabbi Siegel. And I want to remind everyone that most people in this world just want to be heard. Listening is sometimes the most healing thing that we can do for everyone. I can hear a lot of pain. I have no suggestions on how to heal it, because unfortunately, what we do and say in this town will not have an impact on what's happening overseas. But maybe listening will be a comfort to the people. I know Islamophobia exists. I've heard it in that chamber room. I know Black racial hatred exists. I heard it in that chamber room. I know anti-Semitism exists. I've heard it in that chamber room. I will not blame a whole race of people for the bad acts of individuals. That is very important. That was done to Black people throughout history, labeling us all the same. I will not label all Jews. I will not label all Muslims. I will not label people. I will look at everyone as an individual. I will have my hand open and understanding and listening. And I advocate also for empathy training. We really need it in this town.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Miss?
Hi, I'm Jabin Sheikh, a Teaneck resident of 3 years. Nearly all Palestinians in Gaza are refugees and descendants of refugees who have been violently expelled from their ancestral homelands during the Nakba of 1948. These are the people who managed to survive the massacres carried out by Zionist militia, like the one in Deir Yassin. They were ethnically cleansed from their lands that are still illegally occupied today. And the same lands, which I just learned tonight, are being illegally marketed to Americans here in Teaneck, New Jersey. So if this is something that Teaneck Council and residents support, they should at least be open to hearing the names of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the first Nakba survivors, the one whose lands had been stolen by this US-backed settler colonial state, the same state that this council vows to support as it carries out a second Nakba and genocide. Ahmed Saeed Mohammed, 3 years old. Aisha Omar Mustafa, 3 years old. Aisha Salahuddin Ismail Abu Shamala, 3 years old. Ala Niyaz Nasir, 3 years old. Ali Amir Ali Zaqut, 3 years old. Ali Ismail Mahmoud Al-Darawi, 3 years old. Alma Taha Amir Al-Majeda, 3 years old. Amani Muhammad Abdul Rahim Al-Madhoun, 3 years old. Amin Muhammad Amin Matar, 3 years old. Amir Muhammad Juma' Dahir, 3 years old. Amira Muhammad Salim Al-Sawarka, 3 years old. Amjad Khalid Kamal Rashwan, 3 years old. Anas Muhammad Sami Aslim, 3 years old. Asil Muhammad Mazin Shaldan, 3 years old. Asim Majdi Mustafa Ali, 3 years old. Ayman Mahmoud Ayman Al-Jaya, 3 years old. Azad Tariq Muhammad Al-Maghari, 3 years old. Bana Iyad Gamal Nasr, 3 years old. Basim Sami Muhammad Al-Sankari, 3 years old. Batul Mahmoud Dababish, 3 years old. Bayan Madat Abdul Fattah Daif, 3 years old. Bilal Ahmed Khalil Zurub, 3 years old. Bisan Muhammad Sami Al-Nawas, 3 years old. Dahoud Majdi Taysir Abu Shahma, 3 years old. Dia Saeed Anan Tanbura, 3 years old. Dima Jihad Hamid Abu Awaimer, 3 years old. Elaine Osama Muhammad Dabur, 3 years old. Azaldin Saeed Nabil Al-Laham, 3 years old. Fadi Khalid Muhammad Al-Bardawil, 3 years old. Sarah Hazim Abdul Hamid Muhanna, 3 years old. Fatima Asim Hassan Abu Musamit, 3 years old. Fayaz Mahmoud Fayaz Ahl, 3 years old. Habiba Al-Rahman Musab Basim Al-Kurd, 3 years old. Hala Muhammad Yunus Al-Agha, 3 years old. Free Palestine.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Maxine Angel, feel free to unmute. Welcome to show your camera.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. Loud
Loud
and
and
clear.
clear.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, everybody. Hi, Maxine Angel. I live in Teaneck, and I want to give a few thank yous. Thank you, Avi Berliner, for that incredible presentation on the great work of the Parks and Recreation Board. So many wonderful things going on in Teaneck. It's great to hear you list them, and we're looking forward to a spring when we can enjoy our beautiful parks throughout town. In terms of traffic safety, there's so many people who spoke so thoughtfully about that. It's a major issue. I live on Queen Anne and Johnson, south of Cedar, and it's come up a few times, just the difficulty crossing Queen Anne. That a number of things play into this. One of them is that the speed limit on Queen Anne is 35 miles per hour, not 25 like other parts of town. And there is the only traffic lights are at DeGraw and again at Cedar. So it's a pretty long stretch, and not enough people follow the speed limit. So people are definitely flying way past 35 miles an hour. It's very hard to cross. People don't stop so often at the crosswalk, and it's hard for people getting to work. It's hard for people trying just to cross the street for any number of reasons. So please look into that. And I want to just say that Teaneck is home to over 41,000 people. It's a great place to call home. And I'm really sorry to see that there's so many cynical elements of the town that work tirelessly to pit so many different communities of Teaneck against each other. We really need to double down on treating each other with dignity, with respect, understanding that we have all different backgrounds, and that we're all wanting to live here in a safe and thriving community that has many wonderful things, like Mr. Berliner presented, many wonderful things that are that we pay for with our taxes. And thank you again. It's pretty late, so thank you so much to the town council for your time this evening, and to so many of my neighbors for coming out tonight as well. It's good to hear from you, and have a good night.
Thank you, Miss Angel. Ma'am?
Good evening, council. My name is Hildy Dillon. I am a 38-year resident here in Teaneck, and I'm also vice chair of our environmental commission. I wanted you to know that at the environmental commission February 21st meeting, we had a discussion with Michael Surmabekian, who's superintendent of the DPW, and we offered comments on the green grounds and maintenance policy, which is in your packet. It's resolution number 54, 2024. After some minor revisions that were suggested by the EC that emphasized Teaneck's practice of preference to not use synthetic and chemical pesticides whenever possible, that is the preference. Only turning to the use of those agents when we have an invasive species like similar to lanternfly or some of the insects that are attacking ash trees. Also, so I ask you to support that resolution. Also, the Environmental Commission and the DPW will coordinate our first town cleanup of 2024 on Sunday, April 14th. So I want everybody to mark their calendars, and registration for the cleanup will be announced in early March. Also, on behalf of One Town, One Vote, which is a group of residents in support of democratic and transparent governance in Teaneck, we request the council to not stop good and welfare before every person waiting in person or in Zoom has a chance to speak. It is really your responsibility to hear from the residents willing to spend their time bringing their concerns to you, whether it's hard to hear what certain people have to say. When you get elected to sit where you are, sometimes you're hearing things that are hard to hear, and sometimes you hear a lot of compliments, which is good too. The gentleman who talked about the improvements in our parks, I agree. But personally, I live near Almond Park, which is at the crossroads of Fort Lee Road and Gifford Place. We've had a lot of vandalism in the park over the years. I've lived there for a long time. and it's happening again. We had a little library box in the park that was repeatedly vandalized, and now it is gone. There was a portisan there because it is a very actively used park. The tennis courts are busy all seasons. The basketball court is all seasons. Lots of kids in the playground. But the portisan that was there was vandalized several times. It was turned on its side and now it's gone. So we need better surveillance in the park and better maintenance.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Thank you, Ms. Dillon. On Zoom?
I have an RK. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, everyone. This is Reshma Khan. Doug, I think next time I get picked, I want you to play some music. I feel like I'm in a lottery that this time I've been picked. I was one of the 18 people on Zoom last time who did not get a chance to speak. I wanted to address the TNEC council members and share that sometimes some of your efforts at the optics of promoting unity and diversity, they are getting lost when we actually see the real way in which they are translated in action. We have a speed friending event to promote unity in the community. Very commendable. That is fantastic that you are running that along with town manager as well as the chair of the interfaith group. However, if you want unity in the community and you're really thinking about the optics, you should start by allowing all residents to speak openly in full transparency. Insisting on a video to be turned on, it definitely intimidates those who are not tech savvy or who may not have a camera on. Also asking that speakers, only the first 20 speakers be picked in order to allow for just 1 hour of speech. To keep out some bad apples is a terrible strategy if you are in fact looking to promote unity in the community. Passing resolutions, again, the optics of it, it seems seemingly you are working through just promoting personal agendas. When it comes to resolutions, you completely turn a deaf ear to any other constituents that come out and speak, almost saying openly that good and welfare does not hold any value when you know what the speech of, what the thoughts of every other resident out there is. When it comes, it's the same thing when it comes to monuments and memorials. We should be doing more to show the optics of unity and diversity rather than, promoting one community. I also want to mention that we had a fantastic event over at Hackensack's Wilson Auditorium, honoring a living legend from TNEC, Ms. Theodora Lacey, for her lifetime achievement of community service. The usual council members who attend those events were there, so thank you for being there. I want to thank Councilwoman Belcher for initiating a special commendation for Mr. Sebastian Rodriguez, who retired recently after giving more than 15 years of his time and service on the school board. Overall, as your town residents, we feel that you are not really living up to the oath that you had taken when you were sworn in reposing the trust that we have in you. So kindly consider the optics of what you are actually showing us through your actions. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Amanda, and I wanted to say that I was able to listen at the beginning of the Zoom, and I wanted to second the congratulations, the applaud rather, to the volunteer corps. Obviously our healthcare first responders are the ones who see us in our most painful moments. But as we are kind of celebrating these healthcare workers, I'm also thinking about the responders, the EMTs who responded to 6-year-old Hind Rajab, who works to comfort the 6-year-old, 6 years old, in her last moments before she was murdered by the Israeli soldiers. I think about her screams that they had to listen to her over the phone as she saw her killers approach the car that she was trapped in. And I cannot even imagine what it must be like to work as a healthcare worker right now, as horror stories from doctors, from nurses, from EMTs, about surgeries with anesthetics, about births without any kind of support, and having to immediately evacuate hospitals I can't. Sorry, I had to just take a moment to like really take in the fact that we do a lot in like coming up here and talking, and half the time I watch these council members and y'all don't even listen. And it's kind of wild because a part of it is that you don't agree. You don't want to listen to the numbers, the statistics, and then the names. You don't want to listen to any of that. But because the fact of the matter is that TNIC is responsible. TNIC is not like, it is in the US as a profiter of this genocide, but it is also a key participant. And we see that when one of our council members was just at an event today that was selling, or rather supporting this winery company that stole land from one of my friends' families in Palestine. And so, you know, in the past, we've heard a lot of residents talk about how, oh, Palestine, TNIC doesn't have anything to do with Palestine. That is unfortunately incredibly false. When we see that our name is enshrouded in the blood of Palestinians, not just in the past few months, although that is certainly true, but since the conception of Israel itself. So I truly recommend that the council members need to clean up their act and start listening to their constituents.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Adam Weissman. Please unmute.
Thank you. Yeah, so I want to respectfully disagree with Cheryl Hall. What we do in this town can and does have an impact a world away. The message that we send as a community, that this council sends, it is a statement on this where this community stands, and that ultimately influences the positions of our senators, our representative, and in aggregate with other communities, our president, who do make life and death decisions. So when our community is on record supporting a genocide, that does send a message as to where we stand and how our elected officials should vote, versus when we take a different position. I agree with Mr. Fox that the critical point of having a Holocaust memorial is to make a statement that such horrors should never happen again. So frankly, for our town to move ahead with a Holocaust memorial while we are on record supporting a genocide is to make a mockery of the victims of the Holocaust, like my great-grandmother, Anna Kuzmierska. We honor the victims of the Holocaust best by showing that we are committed to saying never again, and by never again supporting a genocide, by not supporting a genocide in progress. It's laughable, I think, that we have, as for our council, Ms. Organ and Ms. Goldberg couldn't be more transparent.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did I miss something, Scott? Oh, the names? Yeah, if you can, please address council through me and don't call any council members out individually if you can, please. Your
Yes,
time was
okay.
suspended, but we're putting it back. You have 1 minute and 21 seconds, sir.
Okay. When members of this council are utterly transparent that in not being able to commit to whether good and welfare will continue or not before seeing how it goes, the issue isn't hostility. The issue is that there's a faction of this council that is committed to suppressing free speech whenever support for Palestine and concerns about the atrocities being committed by Israel comes up. This is a violation of free speech. It is the council deciding what issues and positions it is open to hearing, making a decision for the community about what issues it deems the community is willing to talk about. But really, won't use names, but one of our as just reference, one of our council members is making the strongest statement of all by not being here tonight in favor of being at a wine tasting event where properties are being sold. Where wine is being sold that is produced on an illegal settlement in violation of Article 49 of the Geneva Convention. That council member slandered protesters as anti-Semites and insisted that this was not an illegal Sal, he should really look at Anthony Blinken's statement from Friday, where it was reaffirmed that the U.S. position is that West Bank settlements are illegal, and we should
Thank
not
you,
have
sir.
council members who are promoting criminal
Thank you,
activities.
sir. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you, sir. Someone in chambers?
How many people, Mr. Mayor, how many people are on Zoom? It's 11
I think
o'clock.
2, 3.
Wait, can we make the motion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes?
All those in favor, please say aye. The ayes have it. Sir?
Good evening, Dwayne Harley, Teaneck resident, Bogus Street. I just want to make a statement that I support the extension of good and welfare. I do not think it should be extended based on discretion, only because we need fairness. Because just tonight, some people were corrected by directing their comments to particular council members. Others that was in this chamber just now clearly was talking to a council member directly, didn't say names, but we all knew who he was talking about, and nothing was said. So I do support the extension of good and welfare. Teaneck always brags about integrating and we're all together, but then we mute those voices we're integrating. So you guys want to be those people that mute the voices of the people we're trying to integrate? Let the community speak. We're here, you guys, we're here, we're trying to work together. It was a statement earlier that one of the council members made that you want to cut short the meeting so you can get back to the business of the township. Well, listening to the constituents is the business of the township. Thank you.
Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Sherry on, please unmute, state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Sherry Han-Eid, lifelong town resident. I wasn't going to speak initially. However, after hearing multiple residents say that people were using this time in good and welfare to be divisive, I just need to find out what that is exactly. What do you consider as being divisive? Is it pointing out that violence needs to end? Is that divisive? Is pointing out that certain people have interests outside of this town divisive? So what exactly is divisive? What is divisive about calling our attention to the suffering, to the killing of babies, to the suffering of mothers? What is divisive about that? I just need to know. Also, I want to thank the members of the council who are always supportive of the residents in terms of letting us speak, allowing us to be heard. Because again, as the previous speaker said, the business of the town is the residents. Our voices do need to be heard because we email, we don't always hear back. So when we say these things on record, it means a lot and it feels like it means a lot. I also would like to know a little bit more about the leadership workshops that Mayor G was talking about. If that could be more broadly spoken about, I would appreciate it, because clearly you have a hunger and a thirst in this town for people to be involved, because we keep coming out to be heard and to speak to you. Also, I just want to say again, I don't understand how pointing out that we want the indiscriminate killing of Palestinians to end can be divisive. Thank you.
Anyone in chambers? No, we got everyone. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Bringing in Deborah, please state your name for the record. Please unmute, state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. Deborah Blaber. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to correct some false narratives that have been put. There was not a single council member at the wine event tonight. I was at the wine event tonight. Definitely no council members there. So I just want to correct that little fact. And I also want to point out that we are a very diverse town. And it is very important that we don't gaslight each other. So therefore, it is very important. I would never dream of telling somebody who is not of my ethnicity what it was like to be discriminated or downtrodden. I would never expect anybody who is not Jewish to tell a Jew what anti-Semitism is, whether something is anti-Semitic or not. And a while ago, a council member did that, and it really irked me. And I feel that it has allowed people to tell people, no, that's not anti-Semitic, that's not anti-Jewish, that's not Jew hate. But unfortunately, it is. And you may not think it, but again, I would never tell you what discrimination is for you. Don't tell me what discrimination is for me. And again, there were no council members at the wine event tonight. However, the Shiloh wine was delicious. So thank you very much. And thank you for the leaf collection. Thank you for the snow collection. Miracle, Town Council is doing great. Love my new assessment. And just thank you to Doug and my brain just went dead. Thank you to the Town Council for doing what you do. And just to remind you, don't tell minorities how it feels to be discriminated against. It's not a good look. Thank you.
Someone else on Zoom, Doug?
Jesse Leon.
Good evening or night or whatever we're at this point. Jesse Leon, Teaneck resident. I have two local issues that I wanted to raise. I noticed this week that there was a lot of speed enforcement on Palisades Avenue, which is great. We should absolutely be enforcing the new speed limit there. The people of the town and people who drive through the town need to learn that the right speed is the right speed. I got a ticket on Palisade Avenue a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. You know, I increased the town budget by a couple $100 as a result, and I regret it, but I am much more careful driving on Palisades. I do caution, though, that enforcement is not the only way to solve this problem. Palisades from Route 4 north is a speedway. It's designed as a speedway. It's wide, it's flat. There are very few cross intersections. There's really no reason to slow down, and it's really easy for people to just hit the gas. So I would recommend that in addition to enforcement, or and to hopefully eventually to phase out the need for enforcement to as not create an extra revenue generation on the backs of the township residents, redesign Palisades Avenue north of Route 4 in order to ease the traffic there, or slow the traffic there, I should say. The other thing I wanted to bring up was I noticed one of the council members talking about all of the houses that are being foreclosed or eminent domain or something as a nuisance. I just want to caution as a law student interested in property rights. Last year, the Supreme Court ruled in Tyler versus Hennepin County that any additional equity in the house beyond whatever is owed to the town in taxes belongs to the homeowner. I know New Jersey hasn't had the practice of actually returning that equity to homeowners. I would caution that if there is any remaining equity in these homes that are being foreclosed on by the town, that we treat that very carefully so as not to run afoul of relatively newly affirmed constitutional law. So just please make sure that that money goes to the right people it goes to, and we're not involving ourselves in future litigation. And otherwise, thank you very much, and I hope that we all get to go home and go to sleep. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Next, Doug. All right, good and welfare is closed. Ms. Belcher, would you like to start us off?
Certainly. First off, I'd like to start by saying thank you to Senator Weinberg for calling in. It's always great to hear your wisdom and knowledge and insight. I here again repeat that I believe an independent audit also is an imperative, just as was spoken by Lisa Gray, Juanita Brown, Mrs. Wilson, Alice Garcia, and Paula Rugovan. I believe accountability and financial responsibility is our responsibility as leaders. I also believe what Ms. Wilson said about education is the answer to problems, not stone monuments. I believe that, as I said on October 17th, that let us not retreat back into our silos that will only serve to continue to keep our community separate and divided. And that is what I believe these monuments will do. I will always believe in hearing all residents, and I support hearing all residents during good and welfare. Okay, that's just full stop for me. I want to speak to a couple of other people that spoke, Mr. Siegel, Rich Siegel, and John Moscow. It's very surprising about this private real estate event that's happening on March 10th, as you've indicated. It's very concerning. I'm very concerned if any of our citizens of Teaneck cannot walk into any event based upon their race, religion, nationality, or anything. Everyone should be able to participate. Okay, there should not be any discrimination in any real estate sale. Not only, Mr. Siegel, is it a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and 1968, but it also is a violation of the New Jersey law against discrimination. There's a division within the Real Estate Commission, which is known as the Bureau of Subdivided Land Sales Control, that mandates that developers must register their development. They must register it. Why? Because of potential unscrupulous developers, so that people are not being marketed to in any adverse way. So I believe that if there's any type of discrimination that's happening in our township, I would ask our attorney, Attorney Scott, to look into this, because I'm certain we don't want to have any event held in our township that has the markings of any discrimination, which is extremely surprising to me. So I would ask Mr. Salmon if you would look into that, because we don't want to be on the wrong side of history by having an event held in Teaneck that discriminates or violates any local, any state, any federal, or even any international law. And lastly, I would just like to say to the young lady, Layla, and a few of the other women that spoke, I feel your pain. I can't, words alone cannot express the pain that you are feeling as you read the names. But as you were reading the names, I was reminded of Black Lives Matter. One of the key principles was say their name. There's a reason why people say the name. They say the name because Black women who were held victims of violence, they were basically it was necessary to say their names, because people, only then will people ask the necessary questions about the causes and the circumstances of violence. So I just end by saying their names, you make people ask necessary questions. Then I would encourage you, keep saying their name.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Mr. Clerk, I make a motion to extend the meeting until 11:30.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Ms. Horgan?
So Councilman Schwartz's son got engaged to a very lovely woman from California. He's there meeting with her family right now and celebrating. He was not at a wine tasting tonight, and I don't believe he's missed a meeting in the last few years. So I hope everybody wishes him well, and congratulations on the engagement of his son. Just to clear up a few other things, to Reshma Khan, Councilman Schwartz was at the event for Ms. Lacey on Saturday. I tried to go also, but it was Saturday and we had plans. It's our Sabbath. I have walked to the Rhoda Center. He and I have walked to flag raisings for Juneteenth and for Pride. We walked early on a Saturday morning to FDU and did the silent march to the burial ground, even though it was on a Saturday. So we do our best to get there to events that are on Saturdays when it's within our ability to do, we do it. But just keep in mind that he was there. It's not just the usual council people. Saturdays are difficult for us, but we try. I wish to thank Mr. Berliner. I turned to Dean after your speech and said, wow, you've done a lot. So thank you for pointing that out. And thank you to Dean for everything that we do up until this last week's groundbreaking for Teaneck Southern, which I'm so happy that we've gotten to. I know Ms. Dillon left, but I'm wishing you dry weather on April 14th, and I hope to attend the cleanup To Shayna Brander, we don't have your contact information, but if you'd like to reach out by email, we can come down and take a look at the area that you're referring to. To Debbie Rutz, I know what it's like to have a father pass, and I'm so glad that we can do this for you. I hope that it gets passed tonight. And to Cheryl Hall, to Reshma really for pointing out the speed friending event Thursday night, but to Cheryl for pointing out that people want to be heard and listened to. I hope that everybody here who has waited up to speak will sign up and attend. It's on the Township website, Thursday night, 7:30 to 9 at the Rhoda Center. Come out, spend 3 minutes with a friend, a bell will ring, you'll move on to the next friend and meet somebody new, meet a new person or two, or I guess if we count 3 minutes, within an hour, it'll be 20 people, and we'll have refreshments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Ms. Goldberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 1 second. I hear you, Teaneck. Transparency doesn't mean you agree with me. It means you know what's going on. These packets that I've just given out to one for each council member and the public you may take are the 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 22 audits that were already conducted by the library CPA, Weinstein and Weinstein, as well as the grant guidelines regarding the rules, how these money could be spent, the bylaws of the Garden to Nurture and Human Understanding committees, and as we know, bylaws are very important. The grant application, the 2017 grant proposal by the committees, the publicly available IRS documents from the IRS website for both committees, and a letter from Dr. Pruitt to the EAMC on April 13th, 2018 about his resignation. If anyone doesn't have enough, please feel free to email me at hgoldberg@tnecnj.gov and I'll happy to send it out. January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed as Chancellor of Germany. That was less than a century ago. Shortly thereafter, the greatest propaganda campaign until October 7th, 2023 began. The anti-Semitic tropes from the Elders of Zion that was used as a pogrom on Russia began. Jews were blamed for the economy, for Germany losing World War I, for taking over. Neighbors turned on neighbor. The Nuremberg laws were implemented. Shuls were burned. Torahs were burned. The swastika was painted on the doors of homes and shops. And Jews were forced to wear a yellow star. All of these things were allowed to happen because anti-Semitism was normalized. Then came the gas chambers. Over 12 million people were systematically murdered by the Nazis, and half of them Jews through the final solution. In 1933, Jews were 60% of the worldwide population. Today, they're 0.2. We are now 3 to 4 generations past the Holocaust, and the last of the survivors won't be able to tell their story anymore. While hearing survivors was part of my education, both in private school and at Teaneck High School, it scares me how many people now believe that is fake or exaggerated. The Holocaust monument that was approved 11 years ago will not just be a brick and mortar monument, but an educational and interactive monument. People will be able to scan the names of the victims or the camps and hear their stories on their phone, something no other Holocaust memorial in the country has. And the story of the enslaved Africans as they were forcibly and criminally brought to this country and endured horrific conditions in the ships, and for centuries after, Teaneck had slaves. That was not taught to me in Teaneck High School. I want to see both monuments built because we have to learn from each other. We have to hear and learn about our individual stories. And if we don't, if we lump all of our stories together as a tragedy of the acts of man, how can we recognize what is happening around us to make sure that it doesn't happen again? I need to learn the history of the enslaved Africans in Teaneck and America, and I look forward to both being built. I was at an event at the JCC at the Palisades earlier this week where an interfaith discussion took place with 3 speakers from the Hartman Institute. And one said, we have a problem in the United States of not acknowledging anti-Semitism. We dismiss it as not real. I myself have experienced anti-Semitism by people I once called friends, by people in this room. I experienced anti-Semitism tonight, and my hands have not stopped shaking since. I have been called brave and courageous since October 17th. Condemning Hamas should not be brave. Condemning a terrorist organization as recognized by the United States and European Union should not be brave. I didn't get elected and decide to run because I served on the Board of Ed or the Planning Board or on any committee. I spent thousands of hours in that seat where Mr. Harley sits right now, fighting for thousands of residents in this town, no matter the issue, no matter the people, because it was the right thing to do. But when asked recently what exactly I did to betray the people who voted for me, despite everything that I have done, the answer was, you're a Zionist. Normalizing anti-Semitism is not acceptable, not in Teaneck and not anywhere. Never in my 40 years of Teaneck did I ever think that for such a time as this was the moment that I was called for. I will always serve all 41,000 residents.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Mr. Katz?
All right. I don't know if I can go after that one, but I was actually just going to talk about the speeding going on in the country club area and maybe ask if we can ask, I think what's happening, Mr. Manager, is obvious that it's become a cut through from Route 80 to Route 4. And maybe we can possibly request from Waze that they can keep the traffic on DeGraw and Teaneck Road. I know that other towns have done that. If that's okay with the council, if we can, this way, doesn't the people that know, but the ones that are just following the Waze leader, will hopefully steer more towards Teaneck Road and DeGraw.
Ms. G?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to try to address all of the comments. So Mr. Vasky, thank you for alerting us to the trip hazards. I'm sure if you flag them to Mr. Kaczynski, he'll look into it. He is very good about getting back to folks. Mohammed, same thing with the traffic issues near Hawthorne. I'm sure that Dean will look into that. For all the folks who talked about good and welfare, well, first of all, I want to thank my council colleagues for not cutting good and welfare off tonight. They stayed and heard everybody, even though a lot of what was said was really hurtful and triggering. So I just want to thank my council colleagues for doing that. I also want to thank all of you for, I didn't hear one person who spoke specifically say that they wanted good and welfare to be cut after an hour. So thank you all for coming out and sharing how you felt about good and welfare. The monuments. Thank you for everyone who shared about their feelings on the monuments. I personally love the idea of educating residents about the Holocaust, love the idea of educating residents about enslaved Africans. I just don't believe memorials belong on the municipal green. I love the idea of doing something in the library, having it focused on education. One of the things we heard in speaking to the leaders of the 2 organizations was that it was very easy to get, not easy, but it was much easier to get funding for educational program. It was very hard to get funding to construct brick and mortar buildings. So I think we should really take a step back and think about what makes sense for this town, what makes sense for what would be really efficient in terms of educating our folks about these issues. And I think we really need to relook at it. Thank you, Senator Loretta Weinberg, for calling in. I mean, if the person who was responsible for getting us so much state funding is saying we need an independent audit, then I think we should do that. Dr. Henry Pruitt, if the person who suggested that we first do these monuments on the municipal green, if he's saying, I think I was wrong, we need to reconsider, I think we need to take a step back and reconsider. Thank you, Howard Rose, for speaking on good and welfare. Shout out to Debbie Rutz. I'm so excited to support the renaming of Windsor Road in honor of Rabbi Louis Joel Siegel. So thank you for calling in and sharing. Thank you to all those who read the names. When you see the number 30,000, it's not the same as hearing the names. I was very emotional when I heard you say those names. So thank you for taking that time to share it. Similarly, Denise mentioned that, you hear that in the Black Lives Matter movement. You heard it when people talk about the hostages that are still being kept captive, the Israeli hostages. So same thing, like we need to remember that these are real people and that we all want to see them safe. We don't want to see anyone killed or harmed. I'm trying to go through all this, there's a lot. So yeah, thank you everyone who called in. I think I covered most of it. Thank you, Avi Berliner, for listing the PPRAB accomplishments. I think we forget how much gets done over the years, but it was really nice to hear you list off all of those. The traffic concerns, we discussed a lot of these issues. Dean is on it. He's thinking about really creative ways to address the traffic concerns, rumble strips, speed bumps where appropriate, doing the appropriate traffic assessments to see if they're, potentially look into four-way stops, et cetera. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the night.
Thank you, Ms. G. First and foremost, thank you to all of our residents for joining us tonight and participating. We appreciate you being here with us tonight on this rainy evening. Mr. Vasky, thank you for fighting CSX because we are doing the same and we are brainstorming some new ways to help keep them accountable. Mr. Rockland, congratulations on becoming a father, and thank you for pointing that out about our streets and safety. We will ask our manager to look into that and into the other streets that were mentioned tonight by other residents. Mr. Berliner, thank you for your service on that board and having worked so hard these past few years to help improve our parks and playgrounds because it is noticed and it is appreciated. Ms. Dillon, thank you for letting us know about that vandalism. We will get on that ASAP. And it is getting late, so I will stop there. Mr. Manager, is there anything you would like to add before we continue on?
Just quickly, it's in the budget, going to be in the budget for this year. We're putting in park rangers, which are SLEO ones. There'll be 3 part-timers. They're going to concentrate on our parks, hopefully to minimize vandalism, damage to our bathrooms, that sort of thing. Pedestrian accident was on January 28th, Cedar Lane and Elm. Driver failed to yield to the pedestrian, was also unregistered, uninsured. Car impounded, summons is issued. Regarding affordable housing, I sent emails to council in January, and I believe you sent something to everyone on February 6th. I know Senator Johnson does not support and is not in favor of the bills out there, so we're keeping a close check on this. And I already sent the information to the police chief on the traffic concerns that were brought up tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Clerk, I make a motion to extend the meeting another 15 minutes to 11:45 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Our next order of business is our consent agenda, and all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any discussion is desired by council, that particular item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the amount of the bill list into the record, sir?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Like you mentioned, we have our consent agenda, which is consisting of 2 sets of minutes, resolution 54-2024, 80-2024 through 87-2024. That is including the resolution from that we walked in this evening from Councilwoman Goldberg.
Mr. Mayor, can I pull the bills list?
And the bills list in the amount of, I'm sorry, $6,768,000, $6,768,541.34. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Anybody else?
Wait, I want to pull 81-2024 and the bills list, please.
2024, you said? Okay.
And the whole bills list?
Yes.
In that case, seeing no other hands, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Ms. Clerk?
Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Oregon.
Yes.
Debbie Mercatz.
Yes, with an abstention on the bills list.
It's old. We're actually
Oh,
not even
fantastic.
considering it right now.
Oh, even better.
Can you say that once more, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor G?
Yes.
Mayor Pagan?
Yes.
All adopted. So we have resolution 81 pulled by Councilman Goldberg and the bills list.
Yeah, so for 81, I just wanted to answer Mr. Vatsky. So I know you mentioned the CSX payment on there, so we looked into that, and that's as a result of a contract from 1923. So we're going into that to see why, but I just wanted to answer that for you first. And then on the bills list, I was looking at the invoices for the Wiener firm, and there was a entry on there from 1/31/24 for 2.2 hours for $385 that said Zoom meeting with client miscellaneous matters, case strategy, conference with SJE, reorder to show cause, research open notices of archival BOE meetings, receive, analyze, and respond to numerous emails, resame. Do we know why the Wiener Group is billing the council for Board of Ed?
Scott or Dean?
No, I'm gonna have to reach out to Mr. Tabakin tomorrow to see why there's a mention of a potential Board of Ed bill on the township's legal bill.
Do we know if any other BOE stuff might have gotten on by accident?
I'm not aware of any, but we will certainly go back and double check.
The general, so it's invoice 309,272.
Was that the bill number you just?
That's the
shut
bill
up?
number.
Can you say that one more time?
309,272. I would like to see if we can have all of the bills on this bills list taken, just making sure that there's nothing else for the BOE on here. Is anyone?
What was that, Councilwoman?
Want to see if Dean and Scott can make sure that there's no other BOE items on the bills.
Oh, that particular bill. And that was bill 309,272
Yeah.
from Wiener Law.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss something?
Yeah, we don't have to vote on anything, do we?
Did we vote on resolution 81?
No,
Or
you
the
can do
bills
that.
list?
I can move 81 unless anyone has any questions, and then I can move the bills list also.
Did we address everything you wanted to address?
For me, I don't know if anyone else had any other questions.
Did we do something specifically with Wiener Law's bill?
Well,
The manager said he was gonna reach out to him, but I
Yeah.
don't think there was.
Oh,
actual
okay.
motion.
yeah, there was no
Okay,
other motion.
that's it. Discussion. Okay, cool.
All right,
Sorry.
so you made a motion to approve the two things that you pulled?
A motion to move the bills list and 81.
All right, I'll second.
Okay, Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Yes on 81, yes on the bills list, except no on 309,272, and abstain on all the rest of the Wiener Law invoices.
was that a no on 309?
No on 309,272, and abstain on the rest pending review.
Okay, and Councilwoman Organ.
So I'll do the same. So yes on 81, yes on the bills list, except for the Wiener. I'll abstain on Wiener.
Cool. And Deputy Mayor Katz.
I'm gonna abstain on the bills list.
What about resolution 81-2024?
I'm gonna abstain on that as well.
Okay. Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan. All right.
All right. Next order of business is our introduction of ordinances. Mr. Clerk, can you please?
Wait,
read
I
the
just have a
title?
quick question. Did that pass? No, I'm confused. The invoice. It didn't pass, right?
No, I don't think it did.
Okay.
The bill for just Wiener Law. Was it, I think, yeah, that bill particularly, I'm trying to do the math in my head, I'm sorry. That
Yeah, I think he means CSX.
Yeah. But everything else passes.
All right.
That was rude.
No, I said it was doing the same way as Karen. Can we move on to the next order of business? Am I missing something?
Introduction of ordinances. We have two this evening. Ordinance number 4-2024, amending section 8 of chapter 33 entitled Fee Schedule and Escrow Trust Deposits of the Township Code for the Township of Teaneck by detailing the fee schedule and payment provisions applicable to applications for development. We have ordinance number 5-2024, authorizing and encouraging electric vehicle supply and service equipment and make-ready parking spaces.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes to both.
Councilman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wood,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll see you
Move
next
to
meeting.
adjourn. Oh, wait, Scott, did you say something?
Doug, the first one is going to need to go to the planning board first before we get it back. Just because it's developmental regulation. But then the other one, yes, right, yep.
Okay, so then we won't see.
Well, I guess maybe depending on what the planning board does.
So one more time, I move to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight in person and on Zoom. We hope you have a